What's up, people? Just getting started, just getting this live going. If you want to doom scroll past, go for it, but I hope you stick around. Listen to some music as we get going. Actually, I might start something different. Maybe I should start the beginning of the newsroom as people are joining. Let's see. Instead of doing tunes, I usually close off with an inspirational thing, but maybe I should start with one. Since we're just getting started here, MAGA, Republicans, Dems, Independents, would you support opposing both parties if we could replace all career politicians with irregular Americans who want to serve as temporary public servants? Thanks for the likes. Please follow. Please stick around. This is just getting started. So if you're just seeing low numbers here, it's only because we're just getting started. We should have a lot of people, and hopefully we'll have some guests that want to join and just talk about it. Maybe talk about some ideas to how we can improve the messaging, how we can convince people that it actually could happen if there was enough people that wanted to do it. And that's always the big if, right? This is really not complex stuff. If enough people wanted to do it, we could do it. If there's not enough people that want to do it, we won't do it. So I'm going to say hi to a few peeps. Welcome. Stick around. I'm going to do a short live, probably just about a half an hour to discuss this topic and have some people in here. You're welcome to join in as a guest. I'll probably do a brief monologue first and then just talk to some people casually on a Sunday evening. If people want to talk about politics, let's talk about it. And let's take some questions in the comments. I mean, this is for, I want people, if you come up as a guest, make sure you identify yourself where you sit on the political spectrum and just your generation, X, Y, Z, or boomers, X, Y, Z, where you sit on the political spectrum. And let's discuss whether you're a MAGA, Republican, Democrat, or independent. Would you support opposing both parties? Because I don't see any way out of what we're in unless we truly oppose both parties. It just doesn't seem possible to do anything else. And I know this to a lot of people sounds impossible, but it's not impossible. It's actually not that complex whatsoever. It's just a pure mathematical numbers game. If you have the people that wanted to do this, it could happen. And it has to be around a common message and a common threat about opposing both parties and making sure you're trying to eliminate all the corruption, all the indecency, all the ridiculousness that happens in our government on both sides. Now, I will say that just in terms of corruption, obviously that happens on both sides, whether it's the Adelson family contributing or George Soros or corporate special interests or foreign agents and foreign infiltrators, or whether it's religious fascists that are trying to control government. I mean, you literally have hundreds of special interests. So that's what Trump switched parties for the Friends, the Clintons. I don't know what that means. That's right. He used to be friends with the Clintons and he used to be a Democrat, but he always said if he ever ran for office, he would be a Republican. I'll let you guys say it. Why did he want to run as a Republican? Well, I'll say it. It was just easier to manipulate certain parts of the Republican base. It's called controlled opposition. Absolutely manufactured opposition is something I like to refer to as well. So now that we got some more people in here, let's talk about this on a Sunday evening. You know, if you're not familiar with my channel, please follow. You won't hear me talk about too much about specific issues, especially those that divide people, left versus right, because that's the problem we have in our society, is that we are being exploited and manipulated to oppose each other in terms of issues. But the real issue is obviously top versus bottom, and it's the people in power who are using their power for corruption and to control us, right? And that's why you have division, a classic divide and conquer strategy. If you're in power, you want, and that goes for foreign governments too. The Russians used to say that America will always tear itself apart from the inside. And that's what's actually happening, right? So we need to come together, Americans, and fight for freedom, liberty, self-rule, and so forth. We need a culture of critical thought and then direct democracy. I don't believe that maskless messiah, because if you're talking about direct democracy, you are basically talking about shredding the Constitution and bringing in a new government, an all-new system of government. That won't work. Direct democracy in this country doesn't work. It's too many people. It's too big. Direct democracy actually works really slow. It can work in some countries like Switzerland, but it won't work in this country. And it's explicitly not what the founding fathers put into the Constitution. So direct democracy, I don't think, is the right call. I think you just have to have better people in government, better representation. If you have better representation in government, you will have better government. Because once you decide to go change the Constitution wildly and have a new system of government, you're never going to get enough support. There's going to be so many factions. All you can try and do is say, hey, the Constitution that was put into place by the founding fathers, the representative democracy that they formed, they already went through this exercise. And these were not naive or ignorant people. These were very intelligent people. They were scholars, they were lawyers, and they had a deep understanding of politics and the world, vastly more than all of us. So just because they were in the 1800s and 1700s, people like to think they weren't really as intelligent as people today. That is false. The form of government that they put into place was outstanding for its time, and it's still outstanding to this day. Government is not broken because the Constitution as a document is broken. The government is broken because the people in government are broken or disgusting or immoral. Your government is only as good as the people that you have that are supposed to be respecting the rule of law, which in this case is the Constitution. So people who think the system of the administrative system or the document is the problem. No, it's not. It's strictly a people problem. It's not a document problem. So the implementation, the following of it, I would need to say the implementation is broken with Mike. How people are, whether it's the Supreme Court or whether it's Congress or whether it's the president, people are not adhering to the document. They're not respecting it. So when they take an oath to the Constitution and then they don't follow it, that's your problem. They're not following their oath. I know we all get confused with these things, and you just have to understand if the people followed the oath to the Constitution, then everything would be fine. If they're not going to follow it, they're breaking the law, and there should be consequences. But when there are no consequences, meaning there's no accountability, then of course you get what you have today. I mean, it's only a document. It's only a piece of paper. So that piece of paper only means something if the people that take an oath to it actually follow it. It's not that complicated. So it's allowing such positions of power to exist. Well, it's staying in power too long. That's certainly a problem. And having too much money to buy your way into power is certainly a problem. I can't really see the user. There's just no possible way to ensure good people are elected. The strongest politicians are actors. I don't believe that. Let me give you an example. I'm not saying roundabout. How can you ensure good people are elected? Well, let me give two examples. If said politicians, anyone running for office, cannot enrich themselves whatsoever in office other than the pay that they're giving for that office, and they go as temporary civic servants, and there's criminal prosecution, and they weren't allowed to accept money from special interests because it was in the Constitution. If we added an amendment that says no special interests or corporations are not people and money is not speech, if you took that away, now you'd automatically solve a lot of issues. Now, the second part of that is if you could not stay in power, you could only serve 1 or 2 terms, and then you had to go back home, not then be a lobbyist, because paid lobbying would be abolished. Then you'd get good people. Just naturally, you would have good people going because that would want to serve as a temporary civic servant because, number one, they can't enrich themselves. So that takes away anyone that's trying to use their position for greed. And number two, they can't stay there that long. So it means they have to go back home. So now all of a sudden you'd get a whole new generation of decent people. And make no mistake about it, I think there's millions of Americans that have high moral integrity that would step up to run for office if they actually knew that they could do good and represent their constituents. I don't think there's any thought. Actually, it's not a feeling. It's not a belief. I've had hundreds, if not thousands, of people comment that in such a scenario, they would welcome that opportunity to do that. So welcome everybody to a Sunday evening, talking a little bit about politics and my thoughts around whether you're a MAGA, Republican, Democrat, or independent. Would you support opposing both parties? I should have put if in quotes, if, because it's a big if we could replace all career politicians with regular Americans who want to serve as temporary public servants. Because it's not complex, it's not easy, would take a lot of effort, but it just takes enough people. So you could do all that. Thanks for the follow. Really appreciate the follows from everybody. The audience has been growing like leaps and bounds, which is really cool. And it motivates me to do more of these lives and communicate with you directly and to do more videos to see that I think people are resonating with my message. Obviously, we're so far away. I'm not here to talk about problems. Even though I do talk about problems, I'm always here to point back to a solution. And that's the very deliberate plan that I put together. And you can go find the plan under my profile. If you click the link under my profile, the first step, there's 5 steps there: grow a movement, 50 plus million people strong, direct communication, recruit candidates, get on the ballots, win elections, and then govern and pass the 28th and 29th Amendment. So if you're thinking I'm just here to talk about problems like everybody else, no, I absolutely don't want to do that. I actually want to, the only reason I'm here, as I want to do something for future generations and my kids, because I know our kids are not growing up in a world of opportunity like we had in the past. So taking my first guest, welcome Anna Banana. Love the username. Can you hear me, Anna? Anna, you're on mute. I invited you in. If you happen to be saying this, you can unmute yourself and join. I'll just hang out here and wait and keep talking until you join. Maybe you're here now, or maybe you have better service.
TK, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Anna. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Welcome to a Sunday evening here.
Can you still hear me?
I can.
Okay, sorry. I'm at my 3rd job cleaning, and I didn't want y'all to see the ceiling. So thank you for having me on. You've actually had me on a couple times before. I am an old millennial, so I'll be 40 this year. And I'm also a Air Force veteran. So thank you
Awesome.
for having me on. I know you always like to know, what generation your
and
callers
thank you
are.
for your service.
Thank you. Part of the reason why I'm speaking tonight is I have a couple questions for you. I actually hop onto your lives and I've been listening and absorbing, the things that you talk about, and I'm really on board. I'm really interested, but I have just a couple questions.
Yeah.
That maybe you have answered in the past lives that I have missed.
That's okay. I mean, I have to repeat myself, even if it is a question I've answered before, you have to repeat yourself over and over, because I think we just have to drill it home, right? Everyone needs to understand that it's possible. But maybe
Sure.
there's something that you bring up that I haven't thought about before, which would be awesome.
Sure. So I would say that I'm pretty independent, but I am left leaning in social issues. I'm pro-choice. I think that gay people should be allowed to get married and protect their marijuana plants with guns. But I'm also like I don't want us to send money overseas. So all of that aside, I guess my questions for you are, so with what you're talking about, if we put several people, um, to run for Congress, for Senate, even for president, what issues would they run on? Like, if we're just trying to clear the slate, are we only running on term limits? Are we only running on getting lobbyists out of government? I guess that's what I'm seeking clarification from you.
Yeah, so it's a really good question. And by the way, if you want to, you can tap on yourself and turn off your camera. That way, just your audio is on. That way, you don't have to show the ceiling at all. And that way, you can hold your phone
Is
normally.
my camera still going? I thought I turned it off.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So It's a really good question. And I think you don't want to run on issues at this point because issues are divisive. What you want to run on is
Sure.
having good people in office and obviously trying to remove the special interest money and all the corruption in government. And then, yes, term limits. So if you just did that, now, if you don't do a litmus test on issues, so let's say you have random people coming up and they just commit to doing the 28th and 29th Amendment, but then they could also talk about their issues. They could have different opinions on abortion, etc. You're going to have a representation in your district. So if you're in a hardcore Republican district in rural America, you're going to end up voting for the person that's still fully committed to 28th and 29th Amendment, but they're going to have more representation that represents your values. And that would be okay. Because at the end of the day, as long as they have morals and values, even if you don't like their issues, you put those people in a room together without the burden of enriching themselves, and they just have decent Americans that can enrich themselves and won't stay into power that long. So they have no reason to do anything other than what's best for their constituents. So then you'd have constituents that represent cities or rurals, and they may have different values, and that's okay. But as long as we accomplish the 28th and 29th objective, then of course we'd want to do more. And then those people would have to negotiate, unlike what they're doing today, because compromising is winning. And every single other issue we talk about can be resolved with compromise, but not if we're fighting about it all the time. So I would be fully on board with just bringing everybody in. And yes, there would be other issues to deal with. Who knows if we could even get to those issues, because you still have to do the 28th and 29th first. But then I believe because you'd have decent people in there with different views of life and so forth, and they would figure those things out because they're decent people. They're not there just to make money or to work on their next reelection campaign because they can't take money. So
Okay.
you might think of it like this. Whether actually this movement or something like it continued is irrelevant. So let's say you just did the 28th and 29th Amendment, and let's say this party or this movement, whatever, just disbanded. It would be okay to even go back to the existing two-party system without those, but they wouldn't have those, they'd have those restrictions still on them, right? So they couldn't accept money. So just in that world alone, you would make life for most Americans so much better. And then thereafter, but I'm not even saying it would have to disband. You try and disrupt both parties. And then who knows, maybe that party splits up into two different things. Maybe it's a singular party. I have lots of ideas about ranked choice voting and how you could do this with one party. But all of that is like way putting the cart before the horse.
Sure. Sure. Well, TK, I won't take up any more of your time. I really appreciate your clarification on that. And the only other suggestion that I have for you, and I'm sure that you've been online or you've been live for a little while now, but can you refresh our memory what the 28th and the 29th Amendment are,
Yeah,
please?
thanks for doing that. So 28th Amendment would be just means simply that all elections need to be publicly funded by individuals, human beings, not corporations, not special interests or any
Not
artificial entity,
PACs.
right? No PACs whatsoever.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
there probably, now you could do variations of that, but that's the 28th. Just publicly
Okay.
funded elections, no PACs, no paid lobbyists. And the 29th Amendment is basically just term limits, meaning politicians can't be a career to be a politician. It needs to be a temporary civic service, which means form of term limits.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time tonight, TK. Thank you for answering my questions. I tune in as often as I can. I'm all on board for this because clearly what we're doing is not working. No matter what side of the political, spectrum you fall on, this isn't working. And I'm really worried about the future of my children.
Me
Have
too.
two older kids. They have useful college degrees. They have jobs and they are just scraping by between their healthcare costs and their groceries and their rent. Um, I feel like this is really the first generation that isn't doing better than their parents.
Right.
And, we have a responsibility, even if it's really not a radical notion what you're proposing, but it might seem radical because of the status quo. We've always done things the way that they've always been done. So again, just it's our responsibility to try our best to make a better future for our children. So I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you for taking my call and answering my questions. And I'm going to hang out and listen for a while longer.
All right. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
And I just want to say to people who think if that was a satisfactory answer or not, because most people believe you have to take a side on some of these issues in order to move forward. I don't think so, because I think if we keep opposing each other as red versus blue instead of opposing the two parties, then I just think it's a road to nowhere. I think the pendulum swings back and forth, and things just continue to get worse like they have been. So that's my thoughts on it. I know people want to solve independent issues or have specific stances on issues, and I do, by the way. I do have my personal views, but this is not about my personal views. This is more about the idea and the goal and the true objective. Hey, Mr. Global, welcome back. Happy Sunday evening.
Happy Sunday evening. I had a couple things to add to that.
Yeah, please do.
Last caller. Well, the first thought is, she asked, is that what somebody would run on, is just those two things? I think the answer, in my opinion, is yeah. I think right now we've got to, that has to be the priority, because otherwise nothing else can get done properly, right?
Yeah, and the message gets really muddy too, right?
Yeah, so I think that is yes. I think that's it. And then the other question question slash statement would be, maybe all of these people that are in government need to be like, I don't know, they need to televise or on some sort of social platform. Like, they can't have like these secret meetings or these secret pacts with each other to make decisions without the knowledge of the population.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot more transparency in government, right? That's what the democracy is supposed to be about, other than national security issues. But yeah.
That's all.
All right. So we got Maskless Messiah, I think, up next. So just a quick note to anyone who wants to join. The rules of discussion are very clear, or I want to make them very clear. If you come on, we're going to talk about, you have to be someone who supports a representative democracy in the U.S. Constitution, and you're a patriotic American, and you want American to succeed for all people. If you're going to have any considerations about discussing a different type of form of government, fascism, communism, authoritarianism, etc., we don't discuss that here anymore. I discuss solutions, and I want real, regular Americans who actually support the United States of America, its Constitution, the rule of law, freedom, and all the American values: hard work, diversity, liberty, etc. If you're someone who wants to go outside those rails, I'll probably just boot you. So just an FYI to that. We succeed when we kick AIPAC out. We can vote for who we want. Yeah, nobody. That's just one of hundreds, if not thousands, of special interests, foreign governments that have influence over our system of government, and they all need to go. Good evening, Maskless.
Hey, I don't think we're going to get very far if we're going to narrow the conversation down too much.
Yeah,
Maybe that's the
absolutely
problem.
not. Then don't even worry about it. Like, if you're not going to support the Constitution and what the founding fathers set up, then it's a waste of time.
Well, I just want to know why you think you have an ability to track a vote, and why you think representation would do something beneficial to you. Like, why they would ever consider you and your vote if you can't even track your vote. We know that the Democrats and Republicans are equally corrupt, but how, like, they're the ones running the system, right? Like, how do we then, like, remember Ross Perot, when he in the 90s made them both look like complete fools on a national television in the national debate, the first time a third party got in? What did they do right after that? They got together, colluded to make the debate threshold go higher so that no one could ever get in like that again, right? So this is the problem, is that if we want to have a system, of course Thomas Jefferson and those guys wanted a representation. They didn't want democratic input because they wanted their interest to be priority. To be able to have it, if they would have actually gotten into the issues with corporations and political parties if they really cared about justice and due process and all of that, right?
Yeah, well, you can't blame the Republican Party and the Democratic Party They're private entities. What they happened to Ross Perot, that wasn't the reason he lost, though. He was
Oh
actually
no,
he was leading in the polls, right? 39%. And then he pulled out of the election for 6 weeks and he started to say some quacky stuff. So
no. I'm not worried about him losing or winning. I'm just talking about what they did to make sure that we would never have another instance of a debate like that happening again, let alone a serious candidate being considered. I voted for Nader twice. I voted for Jill Stein twice.
Yeah.
You know, I've been a third party voter for a long time. And I even tried to participate as someone who would like act within the system. I went and worked for Dennis Kucinich's Strength Through Peace campaign when everyone was like all jock and Obama. You know, like I've been a third party ever since 9/11. I saw the way that the Bush administration was reacting afterwards, both in the classroom right as it was happening, and a week later on a mission accomplished banner laden aircraft carrier, and what happened the day before where Rumsfeld was being asked on 9/10 about missing money from the Pentagon.
Yeah, just try and keep it more on topic. Just bring it back a little.
This is to show that like all of these things, they have the power to manipulate this stuff, so we can't be sure that we even have a vote counted. That's why I think we have to get beyond the idea of representation. Of course, the idea of critical thought, a culture of critical thought must critically precede any idea of democratic anything. I agree with the founding fathers on that much, as far as like the pitchfork and torch crowd are very dangerous, right? Like if everything's just reactionary.
We get if 50 million people, let's say Ross Perot had 20 million, right? And that both parties want you to forget about 1992. They never talk about it, right? Because it was a real threat. But if you had 50 million people organized in a community and being able to communicate where we could track it, you could absolutely, even with the current election system, there would be potential problems, just like there are in you know, there's obviously less trust in the vote today. But people, 50 million people, you go for it, you try and disrupt both parties. I'm certain it could happen. I'm not saying that, turn up your volume a little bit. I'm up all the way, just so you know. I think you could still do it. There's lots of challenges like you're indicating, but you still have the existing constitution with representation, and you want to play within those guardrails, because if you try and play outside those guardrails, that's a road to nowhere.
Well, I get you feel that way, but we've not really articulated anything that would indicate that. Like, yeah, we would. There's all the issues of national issues. Everyone goes national security, but the problem is that nation states in the beginning having this kind of power worldwide is what is creating this tension and allows them to do this posturing. Like if we had a worldwide community that was just individual communities of like 100 people each or something like the Hutterites do, where when they get to be 100 people, they break off to another sister colony. We need to have that connection to humanity.
That's like a pack of wolves. That sounds more like a pack of wolves.
More like a pack of wolves. That's better than a bunch of vultures playing with a bunch of sheep and lemmings, right? Like, I mean, what's the alternative, right? I mean, yes, I get that there's problems with every possible idea we can come up with is going to have issues, right? There's no way around that. That's reality.
Right.
It's being in the grown-up world, right? But we have to be honest with ourselves when we realize when things are really just not working, and then we have to be willing to go and see, well, to what extent? Well, you know, yes, I know you want the conversation to stay constitutionally bound, and I get why. It's not a bad document. I went to law school. I studied the Constitution. I get why you're jiving on it so much. But the problem for me is just that, like, I'm not seeing where representation ever is going to suit the average person ultimately. Like, it seems like, yes, they're going to look out for you. It's going to be, like, better that way. But what are we getting?
Let's just
we
say...
got worldwide military. Like, how many bases across the world in every single country should pretty much, like... This is insane.
I would disagree with that, but I don't want to go too far down the issues. The United States, with great power comes great responsibility, and being the largest economy and the most powerful nation with our resources and our geography, if we want to spread American values or the idea of self-rule, which is generally what we did after World War II all the way up to the 2000s, that was a good mission, and that made the world a safer place. Now, you can argue that you don't think we should send money overseas and have military bases out of the way, but I can make a strong argument on why it's necessary.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's real simple. You have psychopaths and sociopaths and authoritarians and fascists all over the world. If you're not, it's very binary. If democracy and representation and self-rule is increasing, you have authoritarianism and is decreasing. If you have the dictatorships and authoritarians thriving around the world, democracy is getting weaker. It's real simple. And you have to, like,
that doesn't explain why we Yeah, I mean,
By the way, I'm
it
not.
sounds like to me you were advocating for like getting rid of the nation states, getting rid of the authoritarianism, not like ramping it up.
Not getting rid of it. What you do is when you have a people, and we haven't done this well, right? American has overstepped and gotten over its skis many, many times. And that's not what we should have been doing. But generally, when a society wants to be under their own control and have self-rule, we've supported that, and that's a good thing. Obviously, if a country's not ready to go towards democracy, we should just stay out of it. So, but to say that we shouldn't advocate for our values, because that's the values that the founding fathers set up. Don't talk about whether they were flawed human beings or not, because they certainly were. But the American values are based on literally values, right? And principles that you want self-rule, you want liberty, you want freedom, you want diversity, you want the separation of church and state, obviously religious freedom, all those types of things. That's what most people around the world in their societies want. Not all, but most.
That's not really what we're getting, and that's not what it's really about. Ultimately, when we're abdicating our responsibility, I think that's what comes down to. Like, it's a slippery slope to want to abdicate our representation to someone else.
No, I'm not
Because
suggesting
then
our
we're-
representation to someone else. I'm saying our values and principles.
No,
There's nothing wrong.
yeah, I get the values and principles side of it, but the thing is that we're not like it's a joke if we're not really standing for them, if we're not really being willing to like address the fact that the emperor doesn't have any clothes and never did. He was always a nudist, right? Like we need to know that we have to have an active hand in our own governance.
Of course,
far
that's
more
why you
than
have
just
representation,
we
right?
tap you, and then that's just going to be the situation. Maybe we should all vote and take a lot of, like the Greeks did to some degree, like having to vote on certain things. If you get enough people actually having a critical thought, educated culture, a society that actually cares about that. Now, yeah, if you don't do that, this is futile. It's going to be
Right,
idiocracy, right?
So I would
But
just advocate, you can have your perspective, and I appreciate your perspective. And if you can get enough people to follow you, then that might happen. But that's obviously, we realize how insane that is, right? Like that's a really hard thing to do. So
we need to have as many options on the table, but right, like I'm not saying that you're wrong or that your way is impossible or completely futile necessarily. I don't have as much faith, obviously, in it as you do.
Oh, I don't. I'm not saying I have a lot of faith in it. I just say put in the work. All I'm trying to do is put in the work. And if the work,
but that means in as many different ways as we can. We need to be as diversified as possible too, right?
No, because if you get too diversified, you get too many different messages, and then no one knows what to follow, right? I think you have to have a very clear vindication on what you're trying to do, and that's it. You don't want to be too broad, because that's way beyond what most people can accept. We have the United States Constitution. We've been following it for almost 250 years. That's what people can have a hard time understanding it itself, because they're busy with their life. So I stay within the bounds and those guardrails, because it is a wonderful document. It still applies incredibly well today. It's just the people aren't applying it well today. So we would change, things would be X% better, 1,000X better than they are today in terms of representation. I'm not saying it would be perfect, because like you said, everything has flaws in it, but just trying to get back to a place where our representative democracy is representing people more and more each and every decade, like it was from the 1950s through the 2000s. Like
I don't know that it really was. That's the problem.
It never was fully. I agree with that.
Right. And I get that when we're trying to move forward, we need to try to have some coordination. We can't all be pulling in different directions, but that doesn't eliminate the need to have the conversations prior to moving in a direction, right? Like we need to understand.
Yeah, you can have those
there's
discussions.
more options than just going with the Constitution and trying to fix it from there.
Yeah, you can have those discussions. All I'm saying is I'm not going to entertain those discussions, because
I get that,
right.
But I'm just trying to put that on the table for you to like on that level, so that we can be aware that there needs to be that at some point, at least in some way, we need to be able to look at that, and understand that is an option for us, that we can't just be like, well, this is the only thing we can do.
I don't know if that's true, because you had all these founding fathers and the generation that came after them that spent 11 years thinking about this. And yes, it was in the 1700s, but these were very intelligent people that spent 11 years thinking of whether they should go to an authoritarian government, a representative democracy, a direct democracy. And they were scholars, they were educated. They already spent 11 years making these considerations. And I'm not saying maybe there is something else out there that's better, but no one has ever told me something that's definitively would work better. And even if it would potentially work better, I think it's a complete crapshoot and a crazy thought unless it takes a movement on its own. That's why I stick within the Constitution.
You say representative democracy has worked on some level. How, in what ways, in what examples do you think it has worked? How do you think that we've had representative democracy and the evidence of it, and why do you think it was a success?
Okay, so we started off, and I'll just give a brief, but let's not go down this hole too deep. I'm just going to give you a high summary. So we started with property owners could be the only ones that could initially vote. Women couldn't vote, slaves couldn't vote, etc. Over time, that changed, where then everybody could vote other than slaves and women. But then that changed as well over time. And then throughout that, there came campaign finance restrictions came down the road as well. So then you had every one vote, one person, one vote. And all people are created equal. At the time was all men created equal, but it ended up being all people were created equal in terms of their vote. And then we had closer representation, even though it was still two parties. Later in the 20th century, it came down to two parties. So it wasn't really wonderfully diverse representation because it was still controlled by two parties. But throughout the history, from the Declaration of Independence through the Constitution, and essentially every decade throughout our history, up until probably around the 2010s, our representative democracy has been moving towards a more ideal state.
I don't know how we can prove that those were things that actually changed. Ultimately, whether or not we had a vote. Like, yes, I get it.
We had the civil rights era. We had to fight for it.
Our votes being counted.
We had the
If it's
civil.
being counted, that's great, right? But how do we know it's being counted?
Well, you're going into conspiracies. I think you have to have some faith in the system.
How is that conspiracy? Just to want to know that your vote's being counted? That's just an honest. Like,
What do you mean?
like,
How do you
like,
know? You have poll at the polling stations. You have Democrats and Republicans signing off on each vote to make sure it was voted counted accurately throughout our history. It hasn't just been some mythological creature counting the votes. You've actually had representation from both parties that have been validating the votes. So I don't know how you can say that it wasn't fair and free.
That's assuming that they were actually counting the votes accurately. Again, we don't know that that's the case. Maybe they thought they were. Maybe they ultimately they were getting the information, and then when that information is handed out, maybe they're not really counted accurately.
Hey, listen, you're going down a rabbit's hole that I don't even want to entertain.
It's a faith fall, right? It's a faith fall ultimately to trust that our vote's being counted. Meanwhile, in 2016. The DNC gets told, oh yeah, you're a private corporation. It's okay to have voter fraud because you don't owe Democratic input. They did it blatantly, right?
So Maskless, I think you've got to remember that TK's got a mission, and his mission are the 28th and the 29th. And in his opinion, and in a lot of people that are watching this, in their opinion, we think that that would have the largest impact to steer the ship back towards the right direction. And we're not really here trying to discuss the ins and outs of every historical happening that's ever occurred in this country.
I'm not trying to do that either. I'm just trying to get specific about representation. Like this is the whole thing that you guys are having faith in. To me, seems kind of like a pipe dream. Like you might as well just have you bring your thoughts and prayers to the voting booth, right?
It's been influenced in a diabolic way away from what the intenders, I believe, wanted to create.
Maskless?
No, go ahead.
No, it's all good. Go ahead. Finish up, Mr. Global. I'm sorry.
No, I was just trying to clarify, like, we can have these kind of like pseudo intellectual conversations, but really we're here for a mission, right? TK, we're just trying to push the narrative, and that's what we're trying to do. We want to make it mainstream. We want it to be a thing that's like in everybody's faces as some sort of like beacon of hope, because we think these two things could have a large impact on our future. That's it.
Yeah, and Maskless.
Sure,
and Maskless.
Water it down too much, and it just becomes meaningless.
All right, Maskless. Let me say one more thing, and then we're going to shut it down. If this movement, this idea that I have, would ever gain 50 million people, I would put them together with a technology communication platform that I already have built. It has to be reconfigured, and it would allow direct communication between myself and all the people and recruiting new politicians. Now, this application would allow people to vote for their representation and the people in this sort of, let's call it a party or a movement, whatever you want to call it. And you'd have people that would be wanting to be elected officials. And we would have this system within this application that would have ranked choice voting and would allow people to determine who's going to represent them or go run for elected office. Now, even in that scenario, we can see the information. It could be encrypted information, and we would display all this information transparently. But people with your view would still question whether it's fully accurate. And I'm not saying you would be wrong to question it, because at the end of the day, you have to have some faith and trust in that organization that their information being presented to you is accurate, because there's no impossible way for me to absolute guarantee with absolute certainty that their votes of those 50 million people are exactly the way that we're presenting it. I mean,
Sure. And that's why you need to have as many redundancies to make sure that you're as close as possible. The highest probability
of
that the
course,
votes are being counted.
but there's
right?
always going to be people in your viewpoints that are not going to have faith in it, just because there's so much conspiracy. There's been so much distrust in politics. You're always going to have that. And at the end of the day, this is why I'm not, at the end of the day, this is not why I'm not a faceless person or some random organization just asking for money. At the end of the day, just like people follow Donald Trump, or if it's not me, it's somebody else, they're going to have to trust by human nature a person and what they're trying to do. And that's just same thing with our representation. You elect someone and you hope they're going to represent the people in good faith. Of course, they don't always do that. Like, faith is not guaranteed, right?
Right. No, I get that. That's why I want to be more into looking at as many possible options personally. Like, I get that you're set on this, and I just want to put it out there.
Trust me, if you find somebody better with a better plan and you think they can do it more effectively, absolutely go follow them. This is my life as a Gen Xer. My experiences are not your experiences. My history is not your history. All I can try and convey is what my observations and my beliefs are and what my vision is. And if that works, great. I hope that you would join it. But if you find someone else who has something that's more viable, fuck yeah, do it. Like, go for it. Like, that's what this is about.
No, I'm glad to see people on here talking more openly about things beyond just red, blue, red, blue. That's been the biggest relief for me. Like I said, I voted 4 election cycles for an independent candidate, and I spent so much time trying to get people to talk about like other options that it just felt like it was going crazy, like talking to brick walls. I even got kicked out of law school, 3 ungraded credits and 5 papers shy, for having the nerve to say that Obama and Romney were equally unacceptable for TPP, drone warfare, and shit like that. So like, it really hits home for me very much so. And I'm not opposed to the idea of having a system that works. I just want, I have a hard time putting faith into representation, giving just the notion that like what it ultimately would mean, like what representation ultimately is. Like it doesn't.
I can't say you're wrong.
Yeah, believe me, we're all exhausted by it. I'm extremely exhausted by how everything has been working out for us. It seems like it's constantly not going in the right direction.
And
So I understand your
and his
frustration.
feelings and frustrations or feelings are not unusual.
Yeah,
Right.
you're
No, I
valid.
appreciate that. Yeah. And I'm glad like I say, I'm glad to see so many more people starting to say that and waking up, even on here. I've had 3 of my accounts shut down in 2 weeks just recently for talking about how fake the elections are and how Charlie Kirk faked it and all this
All
stuff.
right. Just don't get me shut down. So don't
No,
talk
you
about
won't
it.
get shut down. Don't worry. The
No,
lives don't get shut down. I get on.
no.
Only
I've
mine.
had my lives. I've been put in the
Oh,
penalty
I hear
box.
you. I was literally I was in the middle of a live when I got a notification that my account that I was on had been banned. They let me finish the live, but as soon as I got out of the live, I couldn't access my account again.
Yes.
Like that's how it went last time. So just yeah. But this is the thing that happens. The people like us who are trying to spread the truth and talk about the reality are the ones who are getting censored. And I noticed as all this was going on, like, and I'm trying to say what didn't happen, all of a sudden I'm seeing all this stuff about people like, you know, anti-Jew and everything, like getting not just anti-Israel, but getting really like negative. I'm like, how in the world is all this now acceptable on TikTok? Yet I 2 weeks, like, what's going on here? So, yeah, it's good to meet you guys. I know that you want to get into this whole stuff. I wanted to put that out there and introduce myself. I'll give you guys a follow.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on and keeping it cordial, and we can have disagreements. I appreciate your points of view, and you know, do what you can, man.
Right, that's the important thing. As long as who cares if we ultimately agree as far as being able to have the conversations. Like ultimately, it's nice to get to a point where we can come to some kind of like, you know, agreement so we be productive. But like when we're having the conversation, we can't be offended when we're, you know, having disagreements and stuff. That's just emotional, you know, unnecessary.
Right.
Anyway, have a good one, guys.
All right, thanks, man. By the way, Mr. Global, right at the end there, about 30 seconds ago, a minute ago, I turned down the volume on him, but I don't know if I don't know if it was just for my own headset. Did you hear that?
He was just very close to his microphone, and I think he was very passionate, and I don't think he was necessarily realizing how loud he was speaking.
No, that's okay. But I turned him down just for a moment.
It did not.
It did not. Okay.
I don't think it changed.
So my controls don't affect their controls. So I have my volume up all the way. People are telling me that the guests' volumes are louder.
Well, he was very loud.
Okay.
Because he was being passionate.
Right. Tell. Okay, cool. It didn't all good. Olivia says it's all good there. You're good now. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Noel. Okay. So I thought that was a productive conversation. Here's the thing I want to mention about these alternative ideas. I get approached literally every day about some organization or some person that wants to do something and they want to partner. And I have really no interest in doing that at this point because it just muddies the water. You know, this is sort of like I'm always working to fine tune the messaging. What are the people going to gravitate towards most? What's the right path forward? At some point, someone is going to cement their messaging and their vision is going to be cemented, hopefully around somebody. I don't see a lot of people doing what I'm doing. So if this cements enough people together and they think that the 28th and 29th are the right thing and it's the right message, then my plan right there will be the one that gets cemented and everyone else will just have to fall into line. This is just how it works. It's just really simple stuff. If someone else comes up with a better solution, it doesn't even actually have to be a better solution. Let's say someone comes up with even a worse solution, but they're able to crystallize it and get more people to follow them, and it still moves things in the right direction, then someone like me will probably end up following them because I know it will lead more likely to a solution and an objective that's relatively on the same direction. So that's what it's about. It's not about just talking about random ideas. I will change my thoughts and views if someone comes up with a better solution, or, you know, we'll go into more specifics in the future. But until I find something that's better, trust me, it's not about ego for me whatsoever. It's about my kids' lives and our future generations. So if something's better and someone's able to deliver that message and crystallize it better, awesome. But if not, I'm just going to continue to sit here, do the work, if you want to call it that, put out the plan, do the videos, and maybe we're fortunate enough that in time, millions of people will follow it and it gains momentum. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it does, it does. I don't know how else to put it. I would love to be more optimistic.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I gave you a pause.
I feel like this is kind of like the man on the corner who's trying to preach to the people like, hey, you know, you're trying to establish a new narrative that people can run with, right?
Right.
Things aren't working out. This is our version. It's just on a phone, you know. But anyways.
A lot of good ideas that are out there. But if you continually to change the idea or you have multiple thoughts, then it just gets muddy and then it doesn't work. You know, MAGA works because one thing, it's MAGA, M-A-G-A, Make America Great Again. It's not about any issue. It never was about any issue. It was just like, oh, they got a red hat and it's MAGA. You know.
Well, he sold people the idea of what he was going to do.
Which was drain the swamp, right? Yeah.
right.
Mostly.
And now it's kind of like taking on this it's like a new thing, and everybody's kind of like holding their breath, waiting for for the ball to drop. Like, oh shit, did we screw up here, or or are you actually going to do what you said you were going to do?
Yeah. Someone pointed out that we should have merch eventually. If there was an idea, and it's not necessarily to make money, but like, whether it was Drain the Swamp, it was like Trump was always testing what would attract the most people, whether it was Lock Her Up or Drain the Swamp or the Deep State, or, he was obviously has a gift for mass simplifying things and getting people to rally around those things. And as absurd and ridiculous as I think it is, it's the truth. Yeah, the dark MAGA is the swamp. Absolutely. And by the way, is it Noel or Noel? Maybe you can let me know.
I'm in the garage. Is it Noel?
Yeah, Noel.
I think it's Noel.
Noel. Let's go with Noel until he or she tells me no, like Christmas. So that's
Yeah.
Noel, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So dark MAGA is the swamp. Great. I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't talk about dark MAGA enough. Elon Musk and all the corporate dictators. So Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, JD Vance, they're not MAGA. They're dark MAGA. And if you're not familiar with dark MAGA, it's many of the old PayPal mafia, including a lot of new people like L. Ellison, who's taking over this platform, and others that now just support Trump because he's a vehicle to get to their bigger grifts, for them to take more control. And they're referred to as dark MAGA. That's why Elon Musk wore the dark MAGA hat, rarely wore the red MAGA hat. And it was a dark MAGA hat because it was symbolism that I'm not MAGA, I'm dark MAGA. And Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, even Mark Zuckerberg to some extent, even though he's just a useful idiot as well to the dark MAGA group because he controls, obviously a very large social platform. They're a dark MAGA, and they're the ones, the dark horse. They're the ones that are really looking to take over our government and just utilizing Trump as that vehicle, or as one of the people said in one of my lives, their Caesarean figure. I love that one. I just love it because I can pronounce it now. Caesarean figure. I used to have trouble saying it.
Well, there's a lot of lives now that I see where these biblical scholars or people that are really into following the Bible, and
Yeah.
I don't know if I really want to get into all that, but I don't think he's a true representation that they think he is the guy, but whatever.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Does anyone else want to come up? I would love to have someone from MAGA come up if there's someone listening, or a Republican or a Democrat or Indies. Would you support opposing both parties if we could replace all career politicians with regular Americans who want to serve as temporary public servants? I'll probably just take one more person if they're there, if anyone wants to join. And then I think we'll shut it down for the night. I think the 30th could include expanding SCOTUS. Maybe 13 is appropriate to hear the scope of cases. Court reform definitely needs to happen. Whether it's an amendment or something else is a good question. Obviously, there should be term limits most likely on judges and the courts as well. But they certainly should not be able to ever enrich themselves outside of the money that they get paid. So no gifts, no bribes, no anything that enriches themselves, maybe even restrict stock trading. But they should never be able to enrich themselves in a court position. So there certainly needs to be court reform. What that looks like, I think there's a lot of different ways to probably do that. Obviously, media reform and the fairness doctrine need to come back in some form. There's lots of other things to do, but those all sort of muddy the water, and we want to stick to being really clear and figuring out still a way to synthesize it. I have trouble with that word as well, to, crystallize a particular movement or mission that most people can get onto and get on board with very clearly and very easily. Ashley says yes in all accounts. I don't know if you're referring to court reform and so forth. Restore Citizens United, make the 28th Amendment happen. Absolutely, that would eradicate Citizens United ruling. which is even better because you just don't want to overturn it. You want to obviously make sure that you do something a little bit more concrete. As a former federal employee, I could accept no gift over $20, huge penalties. Interesting, Ashley. So as a federal employee, you couldn't accept it. But as a politician, so you were in the wrong job, Ashley. You should have been an elected official. Then you could have enriched yourself nicely. And you probably wouldn't be listening to my live at this point. All right, she'd be fat and happy and be like, hey, I don't care. Just
Having
kidding,
their
Ashley.
meetings in dark rooms with masks on and talking about the future of the world.
Yeah, you could have been, you could have been on the inside, Ashley. You could have been actually been a cause for all this. I hope you realize I'm kidding, Ashley. I'm just making fun. But SCOTUS has no limits. Wild. That's right. SCOTUS, they have ethics, Ashley. Don't say they don't have limits. They have their own ethics that they're supposed to follow. And of course, these are the Supreme Court justices. They are beyond, what's it called, reproach. They are so high and mighty that they would never accept gifts from lobbyists or be bribed or have billionaire friends. No, that could never happen. The sarcasm is thick, right, Mr. Global?
Sarcasm is the one thing that AI will never be able to conquer.
That might be true. The lowest form of humor, sarcasm. So I like to use it.
That's why we say we love Israel.
Love the is.
I love Larry Ellison.
Watch, there's going to be 10,000 viewers here soon. Love Larry Ellison. Come on, people. Let's go. We love the corporate dictators. PayPal Mafia, we love you as well. Let's go.
We love Dark MAGA. We love MAGA.
Algorithm, come on. Spread me far and wide. We're on board.
That's right. Hey, you've got a couple more.
Hey,
Oh,
the comment, Dark MAGA, don't say that. We're going to have to ban you because we don't want the algorithm to punish us here. We're so against, we're so for Dark. Well, I don't know how you'd even say it.
I imagine what George Washington would say if he just was like, he popped up and was like, what in the hell are you guys doing?
Yeah, I just want JFK Jr. back. I just want JFK
See,
Jr. back. Because do you know what his magazine, the name of his magazine was?
that was so JFK was the one that was in Texas, right? He was the one that was,
JFK was obviously
yes.
unalived, right?
And then Junior, I never heard about Junior
Yeah, you're
as
too
much.
young. So Junior, he was famous for when his father was unalived. There was a famous photo of Junior. I think he was probably about 4 or 5 years old. Young, cute kid, saluting his father as his casket went by. And it captured at that time, because media was obviously, Bush Publishing and ABC, CBS, and NBC. That photo made its way around the world. Very powerful photo. One of the most powerful photos you ever could see for a nation. When their leader is assassinated and their son is sitting there saluting him. So he grew up in the shadows of his father's unaliving. And he was very protected by Jackie, his mother, and insulated to make sure he was protected. And he was raised really well, and super handsome guy. And he ended up living in New York. So he always had a lot of media and paparazzi following him around. And he handled himself with such dignity. He wasn't an arrogant POS. He was just always cool as can be, never lost his shit. And he was really beloved by even people on the right. He was just, or they were just jealous, right? They're just like, God dang, this guy got it together. And he's just a young guy. Yeah, referring to JFK Jr. And he ended up starting a publishing company and a magazine. And the name of his magazine was George, for George Washington.
George. Interesting.
So he wasn't political. He always said he didn't really want to run for office. Well, initially, He just wanted to live a normal life. He was married. They had, and he just wanted to first live a normal life. But it was always suspected that eventually he would move into politics. And that was even more accepted that he was going to when he started the magazine George, after George Washington. And again, he didn't lose much popularity because of it. It was just viewed as a matter of time. When this guy gets over 35, I forget, he was over 35 when he was in the plane crash. How old was he? Anyone know in the comments how old was Junior?
So his plane went down.
Yeah, so he was 38 years old. So he could have ran for office, but he wasn't ready. He made it very clear. He was 38 years old when he crashed his own plane. He was flying a Piper Saratoga, I think it was. Anyway, so he was an inexperienced pilot. I think he had only a couple hundred hours. And he flew over the Long Island Sound on his way to Martha's Vineyard, I think, which is, I've flown over that area, and it is very foggy in the summertime when after dark and the dew point hits over the Long Island Sound. So he ended up having spatial disorientation because he was not a IFR certified pilot, so he didn't have his instrument rating to fly. And he got into IFR weather in the fog, lost his sense of bearings, and just water darted himself. And,
Really?
And his wife and the friend of his
his
wife.
wife.
Yeah, and a friend of their wife. Yeah.
Oh, good grief.
So it was like one of the many, many tragedies that the Kennedy family has had over the years. And and at that day is when the world, literally, we didn't know it then, but the world changed after that day dramatically. As I always say, and as I told you before, and those of you who aren't familiar with the story, he was 38, 10 years, so that was in 1999. Obama came to power, was running for president in 2007 and 2008. That would have made JFK Jr. around 47. It's almost certain that he would have been in the political spectrum at that time. And it's almost certainty that Obama would have never run for office. Well, I know not a certainty, but it would have been hard to imagine anyone beating JFK for the Democratic nomination. Let's put it like that. He would have been the insider track. It's likely that Obama wouldn't have run because how are you going to beat this guy with so much name recognition and who he was? And if you don't have Obama, you don't have Trump, because Trump's whole rise to political power was saying that Obama was not an American and sticking with that lie for 8 years, claiming that Obama wasn't an American, which allowed MAGA to form and allowed us to be in today. So 1999 is when the plane crash happened, and that has continued to have a direct impact on all of our lives for the last 26 years. His wife and his sister, yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a shock to the system.
Right? Isn't it like really tough to like absorb and realize like everything is completely connected to that event?
Sure. Well, I think the other thought that I have is that there are probably people out there that are similar to them, you know? They just don't have the stage yet. They don't have the attention.
Yeah, there are decent people like that, like sure, but to have that sort of built-in notoriety and sort of like that was the closest thing
For
to
sure.
political royalty that the United States has ever had.
Fair enough.
And when you have someone that, maybe he would have had some sort of scandal between those years and so forth, but the guy was just, I remember growing up with him. It's like, man, I grew up in the New York area. I was just jealous of that guy. I was like, that guy is just a cool dude. Why can't I be as cool as he is? Like that guy had the world at his fingertips, but didn't do a thing like wrong or scandalous. And, through his 20s and through his 30s, like the guy was just a good dude. So yeah, I'm taking questions. No one, if you're welcome to ask your questions in the comments or join as a guest. Absolutely. So I don't know. You guys let me know. I lost some people maybe through that story, but I love that story because I think it's just still free. I still once in a while will have a dream about it and just be like, God dang it. How did we get here? And then it's like, oh, I know exactly how we got here. That guy shouldn't have had his pilot's license. We shouldn't have let him get in that airplane. He should have been grounded.
He
Right?
should have been in a bubble.
He should have been getting a jet, but again, this just showed who he was. He had the money and the means to get flown somewhere, but no, he went through the 100 hours of learning to become a pilot, which is, kind of a pain in the ass, but he wanted to master flying and be a pilot. He didn't want to, he could have easily just been in the back seat and let someone fly him around in a much more capable jet with much more capable pilots, but that's not who he was. I wonder if we can find old issues for George. That would be cool, right? I should probably do some reading, more reading on JFK Jr. because it's been a while. No one, did you have some questions? If you do, jump them in there. Sam says, I have to say it was the first time that I've heard that correlation. Yeah. Well, I don't know what generation are you, Sam. It's not something you really think about, right? Until you really go back and dissect the series of events. Because most of the time when a normal person comes and goes, it has no effect on the world. But there are certain people, good and bad, mostly bad, that have just extraordinary effects on everyone around the world. And JFK Jr. crashing his plane, you're Gen X. So you remember so you remember it clearly, well enough, most likely, unless you're really young Gen X. You remember JFK Jr. just probably didn't make the correlation. Yeah, it's not an easy correlation to make unless you're really just dissecting the history of the last 30 years in terms of politics, right? At some point, it just happened to strike me like, man, I think what happened is I just realized, what would have been world been like with JFK Jr.? And then I started connecting the dots from there. So I just had to ask the question, what would the world be like if JFK Jr. did not crash his airplane? And then that led me to like, well, we knew we wanted to most likely run for politics. And then I realized Obama, and then you connect the dots to Trump, and you're just like, wow, okay. Seinfeld had an episode, absolutely love that episode with Seinfeld. Elaine is jogging next to JFK Jr. in one of the episodes in their fitness club, and then he wants to meet her. That was awesome. Oh, and Noel says, yeah, which Kennedy was that from congressman and took down the mafia? I don't know. I'm not sure. Noel, exactly. So thank you for reminding me that. So the website, if you go to my link underneath my profile, please click on the link underneath my profile. There's a plan called a Citizens Plan to bring representation back to the people. It's about a 5 or 6 minute read. I think it's a pretty easy read. There's also a TLDR version that's like just a 2-minute read. And it's about the 28th and 29th Amendment. And if there were 50 to 70 million people, that we could change everything. So JFK Jr. could have changed everything just by himself because enough people would have followed him. We don't have that luxury today because there's no JFK Jr. around anymore. There's only a Donald Trump. So we swapped JFK Jr. for Donald Trump. Oh my goodness.
What about RFK?
He should not even be allowed to have that name anymore.
Really? Wow.
Well,
He's a falconer though, right? He's into falconry. I saw that video.
yeah, I don't know. I don't pay that close attention. But anyway, so that's the thought. We replaced JFK Jr. for Trump. So from one end of the spectrum to the other, which is stunning. So anyway, so we don't have the luxury of having a JFK Jr. today. So all we have is each other and a collaboration of people and maybe someday a movement. So that's all my thoughts there is that, we have to come together from the ground up. There's only 2 ways to do these things. It's either from the top down, you get some generational leader that brings everybody together, or you build a movement from the ground up. And that's what I'm trying to organize. And I'm just trying to suggest to people, take your heads out of the sand, MAGA, liberals, everybody in between. If you actually give a darn about the Constitution and the rule of law and liberty and freedom, not just say you do, but if you actually do, if there were enough people that wanted to do it, we could certainly do it. And I always say, get me to 1 million people, do whatever you can to get me to 1 million followers and 1 million people that are committed to being in, and we'll get the rest. Get to 1 million, which is not impossible. 1 million is a relatively small number in the world of social media. Get me to 1 million and we'll get to 10 million. And after 10 million, we'll get to 30 million. I have no doubt about it. I think the bigger problem is, can we get from 33,000 right now to 100,000 and then to 1 million? Like, I think that's the real hurdle, because once we get to 1 million, the rest will come, because it's sort of like the rule of any sort of product is you have your early ambassadors and you have your early supporters. And then at the end of the spectrum, you have your laggards at the end, and the early supporters and the ambassadors are generally a very small group. And then it gets through the stage 2, which is generally a larger group, but still not mainstream. I forget the 5 stages exactly right now. And then once you get beyond that, sort of the 3rd stage, you start to get mass adoption. And that's where 1 million people happens. Once you get to about 1 million, then you hit network effects, and then you start to have mass adoption. And that's where things really start moving very quickly. So it sounds insane. It sounds difficult. 100,000 and then 1 million. Then we're actually, for lack of a better phrase, cooking with gas. Don't love that one, but that's all that came to my head.
No one said maybe ask Mr. Global to help watch the chat. I apologize. It's getting late for me, so I'm doing my best here.
What, is there someone getting out of hand on the chat?
No, someone said telling me to watch the chat, and I guess I don't know what I missed, so I'm trying to go back through. But
Well, someone says you can change it. That's an interesting username. You can change it with only 10 million. You're right. You probably can change it with 10 million. Let's shoot bigger. 10 million. I think that's the 3% rule is probably what you're referring to. The plan that I have laid out would require more than 10 million, but everything is subject to change in terms of the plan. But I think you still want more, like to do really transformational type stuff and really change and oppose both parties. I think you need more than 10 million. But 10 million, of course, is a tremendous start. Our friend Crazy Veggie is back. What's up, man?
What's going
Mormon.
on? Thought
The
you were getting
Mormon.
off for the night.
I thought so too, but sometimes I get bored and I just want to come back on again. I didn't want to watch too much Netflix tonight, so you're welcome back, Mr. Elder.
Hey, I'm not the Mormon here. No, I just spoke with them and they tried to get me really, really bad.
I think they probably did. I think you're indoctrinated at this point and seeping into the bloodstream.
Oh, it passed my conscious critical faculty, but that's only because I'm very open-minded. It's tough to block out like negative, beliefs and stuff when you're like pretty open-minded to different people's
Right.
beliefs.
All right, I have to mention this comment. No one, I asked my question, but you keep missing it as scrolls away. Maybe watch the chat more. There are apologies.
Pop up. Come up here. No one. You can come up.
Yeah, just come up with voice only. No one, come and ask. Like, it's hard to watch the chat and do these things. Maybe ask Mr. Global to help watch the chat. Yeah, so he's blaming you, not me. So you're the culprit, Mr. Global.
I'm a terrible moderator. Golly.
So no
It's
one,
above
ask
my
the
pay
question again.
grade.
If you don't want to come on, just ask the question again right now, and we'll watch for it.
Do you believe the Constitution is open to interpretation? Not really. I mean,
Well, you have to interpret the language of it, but yeah,
It's a
I
tough
guess what do you
question.
mean by that?
there are constitutionalists that just believe, there are certain constitutionalists that just believe in the exact way it's written, word for word, and only the Constitution and the first Bill of Rights, the things that are passed at the time it was ratified, and not the other 17 amendments. Then there's constitutionalists that believe that there should not be any amendments. And then there's others that also believe that there can be no interpretation whatsoever. So there's lots of different sort of constitutionalist views. They have different names and phrases depending on who they are.
No one, that's not a prerequisite for coming on a live. I don't think you have to have 1,000 followers
Let me try
to
and
come
invite
on.
him. No one, I'm going to try and invite you.
I think that's to start a live, isn't it?
Yeah, you can come into a live regardless.
So no one, I invited you, so you might get a request to join, and you can just join.
Yeah, because I don't have any followers, so I can't even start a live or nothing.
You don't have followers? I'm gonna follow you right now.
Well, I mean, I did, but I
Oh, it's a
actually what I
private
do
account.
is, yeah, I have a private account, and then also I basically unfollow. Like I had some people I was following, I unfollowed all of them. I like it. I like the zeros. I like the triple zeros. No likes, no follows, no followers. Yeah.
I'm going back in the history and looking for no one's comment, no one's question.
So crazy what you're saying is you're a CIA operative and you're here just to watch the live and make sure we don't get out of hand. This is what you're saying. That's why you got the black suit in the picture.
I wouldn't say that.
I'm just teasing.
If I was though, I wouldn't tell you.
All right. Maybe no one. All right. This is a little sarcasm. No one. Maybe if your username that wasn't no one, we'd pay attention to someone.
We want you to be a someone.
Right. But here's this question. Got your comment, no one. I think this is it. Yes. In the blurb, it says in your head, it says, quote, regular Americans. Can you please define what is regular? Well, that's a fair question. Everyday American.
Median income.
5'11". Or actually, I'm sorry, no, 5'7" for men. 5'4" for women.
9.5 shoe size for men.
Yeah, it has to meet all of these metrics, right? All the variables.
They're going to have very strict requirements.
Brown eyes.
Let's go
straight from the CCP.
Regular Americans, decent Americans, moral integrity, Americans with moral integrity. Regular does not mean a certain race, doesn't mean a certain sex or any of that. It just means a collective of random Americans that want to go into office as temporary civic servants. Maybe that.
People you would find at Walmart.
Oh, come on. That can't be regular.
That's not regular, bro.
That's not regular.
Maybe Target. Maybe Target or maybe
no, I'm saying the DMV.
Okay. All right. That's good. Although you get a mix of individuals in the DMV though.
I don't even know what this
DMV
term means.
Everybody.
It was in a Seinfeld episode, again, showing my age. Seinfeld, have you been to the DMV? They were talking about good-looking people. And they said, well, what percentage of people do you think are good-looking? And I think Elaine, the character Elaine, said, well, 50%. And he says, 50%? Have you been down to the DMV lately? It's a leper colony down there.
Yeah, I hate the DMV. Funny thing you're talking about looks, though. I just did this thing. I didn't know it was a thing. Well, I've heard of it. It's called look maxing, and there's like a whole app for it. And apparently I'm like a strong 6, which kind of,
nice.
Made me feel pretty bad about myself because I thought I was at least a 7.5. Yeah, I paid like $2 for it. I just thought it was funny.
That's depressing.
But crazy veggies, yeah. Everybody is beautiful.
According to some people, but those standards are a little, maybe if you don't live in physical reality, maybe if you just purely see people's mental, and their emotions.
No, don't. I can't vouch for this, but I'm going to say from what I've read and seen, because no, I don't have any dating apps, but apparently on dating apps, everyone looks really beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's a scam, 100%. I guarantee you, a lot of them profiles are fake, and the ones that are real, I've seen some people post on Reddit their actual statistics of who they swipe left, right on, and the females hardly ever swipe right. hardly ever. It's
Right.
essentially
Man,
always like 95% of the time it's left. And then they
tough
very
crowd.
rarely will go out with any guys too. It's like I think over 5 year span, there's like one girl was like, yeah, I went out with like 5 dudes. I'm like, what?
Yeah, well, it's the incel, right? That's known as the incel culture, right? Involuntary celibates, and that's what dating apps have done. It's really disgusting and horrible. Tech bros have destroyed relationship building, right? Because obviously for women, it's a lot easier to meet people, but they're always trying to meet, the top 1%. And for just regular looking guys, like the 6s and 7s, they can't meet any. A 6 and 7 guy can't meet a woman, but a 6 and 7 woman can certainly do what they want to
Oh, all day
all day, right?
for sure.
So that's the disgusting
I mean,
part
they'll
of,
get money handed to them as well, which is odd because that's like a common thing now. I mean, I don't know
Yep.
if you're familiar with like how often the women I've talked to have like received money from strangers on the internet. It's actually kind of unbearable thinking about it because I'm like, wow, that is a lot of money that men are not getting.
yeah, there's going to be a lot of miserable Gen Zers who can't find relationships. There's a reality, and this might be unpopular, but there's a reality that there are going to be a lot of cat ladies in the Gen Zers who met a lot of guys when they were young, and there's going to be a lot of drunk men, alcoholic men later in life that, it's just a weird world in term for Gen Zs. It's a sad world for Gen Zs because just everything's been so manipulated and exploited.
Well, it's this external look of oneself, right? So women are, I feel like, pre-programmed in a way to focus on those things more than men are, right? So they're looking for the guy that's wearing the suits, that's driving the fancy cars, that is going out with the bros and goes to football games and baseball games and has a ton of money. So I don't know. My buddy and I were having a conversation about this the other night. Or like even when I was going out when I was younger, I had a girl come up to me and she said, "How much money do you make?" And I told her, and she's like, "Oh, I don't talk to anybody who makes less than X amount of money." And I was like, "What? How rude is that?"
Yeah, they put it right out there.
Narcissism.
That's their, women, some, not all, just, not,
That's true.
there's
Right.
issues with, but yeah, there's a sick poisoning of the mind society in both men and women of what they look for in each other. And they're nowhere near the same things. So
Well, not true
of
though,
a
I
four,
guess.
ever hear of a 4B? Go ahead. Homes by Becca. Have you guys heard of a 4B?
Or B.
That sounds like an apartment number.
Ashley says
Yeah.
very few people operate that way. Very few women operate. Let's be clear about that. Be interesting to know. I have both male and female kids. So I don't know what the statistics are, but there's definitely a poisoning of both men and women's minds and how they view relationships and what they're looking for in life. But yeah,
More towards the younger age though, right? Like the younger people, it seems to be more of an
yeah.
issue.
And I'm sure it's different between if you live in a city and your culture is in a city environment, suburban environment versus rural environment, and how you're raised, if you're raised by both parents and access to screens and all kinds of things play a role in that. Anyway, so we gotten way off topic. I didn't see any other comments from you, Noah, on if there was any sort of questions that you had. If that was the only question, let me know if that was the only question. If you had another question, I'm happy to answer it. I tried to invite you. Clearly, it looks like you couldn't join. If anyone else wants to join, I'll take one more person. It's interesting. Maybe, I don't know if Crazy Veggies, you've probably been on TikTok longer than I have, but I have a fair amount of followers now. And I see some creators that get far fewer followers and views on their videos. So their reach is smaller, but yet when they go live, their reach, and even for not similar discussions, but political discussions, their reach is much larger. And I don't know if it's the algorithm giving me penalties for a few things that have happened in the past. It's just weird to try and understand how TikTok works, because in my first few weeks of lives, there was regularly 200 to 400 people in here, and recently it's not. So I don't know if it's my prompts, but I don't really understand. I see lots of other creators with much smaller followings having much more people on their lives, which means that either the lives are boring, the prompts stink, or the algorithm is just not rewarding me.
Well, there's
That's a
been
good question.
videos. There's been videos where there's literally bot farms. Like people will just they have like tons of cell phones in a room, and it's not even like individuals. They're like literally bots.
But on
So
these
Yeah, you
lives,
can
I know
even
they're
do that.
people. Go ahead, crazy.
Yeah, so with the bots, you can even do that like on virtual devices. You can actually, there's like ways to create virtual devices, and you can download TikTok on those devices, and then you can just run it, and then have like, all those, you know. So with did it happen like after Oracle took over TikTok? Is that when you noticed your following decrease?
Yes, it was. This timing did seem eerily coinciding with that, but I didn't see the same effect on other people, like say even people who are far left and talking about, Democrats talking, that their lives didn't seem to go through that same thing. So that's why I think it was different, because I don't think you can see me as someone that's ideological one side or the other, but who
well,
knows?
And that may be the issue, because I think what they're
yeah,
doing is they essentially want engagement, right? And the way to get engagement is actually through like hate farming, So it's essentially most of what you see the TikTokers doing. I see at least is a lot of the stuff they're talking about is super controversial. It's super like gotcha question type stuff, and it's not
yeah.
really honest. So if you're not gonna be honest, or if you're not gonna be like a liar and kind of like propagandist, then like it's probably just saying, well, hey, look, we don't want to, I guess, put you out there because a lot of people are probably more interested in, because a lot of people I don't think stay on TikTok that long. Like I think most of the people don't like sit here for hours, right?
Yeah, but I
I mean,
see
if
like
somebody's on a live,
I see a lot of other people that where their followers do seem to stay a long time. Even like was it Good whatever? What's his name? Good. He's got two
Oh,
2 million.
I think I know who you're talking about. He's got glasses,
Yeah, he's got glasses. He got 2 million
mustache.
followers. Yeah, yeah. But he has got 2 million followers. Of course, he's only got about 1,500 to 2,000 live people watching. But then there's Josh Lafazan. He's very consistent with 400 to 600 people watching his lives. I see a lot of consistency there, and he's not controversial. He's not doing a lot of hate farming and things of that nature. I think maybe the prompts, like yesterday's live or a couple days ago, we had what 200 to 300 for a little while. Um, I don't know. I'm
I
still
think you
trying to
got to
figure
give
it out.
yourself more. You got to give yourself more credit, though. I mean, you've went from 16 to what 32 now. So it it's a slow climb, right? But I think the other part of it is like people just like to commiserate in a way, you know.
Yeah.
They they don't like to be told that, if they have a thought in their mind and somebody can solidify that thought, then they're more likely to stick around.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Like you take the Purple Revolution people, Hunter Howell. That kid still pops up on my feed. He has 70 or 80,000 followers. He just strikes me as a total grifter. He's, a reformed MAGA, but he's a young kid, still trying to figure it out. But like him, he had a lot of followers and a lot of views for a while, but now his videos are getting like nothing, and he keeps thinking he's shadow banned. But his videos just really are pretty awful. So they're just not getting engagement. And I've had that as well. When you start getting a little too predictable and too lame with your videos, they just don't get a lot of reach. So he thinks he was shadow banned. I just think his videos were terrible. But he has a lot more followers. So, followers don't really matter that much anymore. Each particular piece of content you do stands on its own merits outside of any algorithm influences. It's interest media now. It's not social media, right? It's interest media. So a new person can come on, have a great video, and get millions of views if the engagement is there. So, but the lives are interesting because I don't see that. I can definitely see the consistency on the videos getting attraction. I know when a video is interesting and has the right engagement, those explode. When it's not, it doesn't. It seems very predictable or more predictable, even though there seems to be some cycles. On the lives, there's not as much. It's harder for me to sort of wrap my mind around why some people's lives with a lot fewer followers get a lot more viewers. But then at the same time, the one I just mentioned, 2 million followers, and he still only has 1,500 people watching his lives. So it's not a big number considering he's got 2 million followers.
And to clarify, I've joined his live before, and he's kind of a prick. So,
He's very outspoken.
I mean, but I saw you up on earlier with I forget what her name is now.
Erica.
Yeah, I saw you in there. So, and then I follow Hector. I think I actually went to high school with Hector Talks,
Huh.
or he went to my school years ago. But anyways,
Yeah. Oh, Good Trouble.
be
Thank you,
paid.
Angelo. It's Good Trouble. That's right. GT.
Yeah, you could just be seeing some people that are paid by like bigger corporations or groups. That could be also it.
Maybe
It could be a
maybe
lot
it's
of
something to do with the TikTok shop. Maybe it has something to do with how they set up their TikToks in terms of meeting certain goals and thresholds. I'm still trying to figure that out, right? Maybe, yeah, I think there's more variables that I have to go a little bit deeper to see what's going on.
or maybe
I got
people
Grok.
like us, maybe they're not on TikTok. I don't know what the average age of a TikTok user is. You
Teenager.
know, maybe our target market, they're not using this platform as much.
Yeah, demographics clearly, right? And it's also
I'm
based
looking
on,
it up right now.
I think it's based on region too. Surprisingly, TikTok is very location based to some extent. So
Really?
you pick up more people in your general geographic area than you do outside of it. And that applies to views too, which is interesting.
18 to 24 is the age range for TikTok users. Largest segment.
Wow.
So yeah, young people.
Oh, Ashley said, I have two Gen Z kids, and I don't picture neither of them saying I don't talk to anyone making less than said amount of money. Okay, I got you. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that's not the norm, right? But there are people that do that, of course.
That night I was just dumbfounded because I had never come across someone that would do that. So I was just like, wait, what? What planet am I living on?
Yeah. Ashley says she's on the West Coast. I am on the West Coast as well, Ashley, relative speaking, mountain. So that's why it seems to, and Mr. Global, you're in Kansas, so you're in Central Time. So within a couple time zones, I think that's the reach more. I remember I published a couple of videos while I was in Europe this summer, and they did incredibly poorly. And I don't know if that was because I uploaded them from Europe, where I should have probably just sent the videos to my son to upload them from the United States. Maybe I would have done better. But
That's a good
that
point.
is true. That is absolutely true. That like the United States in general, if you're in the United States, it's going to reach people in the United States and not globally.
Are you doing hashtags and stuff for your videos? Are you putting
No,
You're
no,
not? Okay.
I
I've
don't.
heard that is sometimes a helpful thing to do.
I've also heard that it hurts, and I've never seen any
Oh,
correlation. I have done hashtags, and I haven't done a extensive testing on it. But whenever I have done them, which is not that often, let's say 4 to 8 times, they've never performed really that well. So I don't think hashtags are relevant. It doesn't make sense that they would be very relevant because at the end of the day, reposts and comments, I would have to assume that reposts are the most valuable by far, right? Because that will get you more views. And then comments would be probably a higher level of engagement. So there should be valued more. Likes should probably be the least valuable. And then people watching a video when they follow you as well has to be obviously pretty high in the algorithm. So, you realize these things I've worked on algorithms in tech companies before. They're not nearly as complex as you think they are. Now with AI, they might be more complex, but there's still, I think, a basic set of rules, and they're always tweaking them and changing them for maximum engagement. But I don't think they're as complicated as most people like to think they are.
Yeah, I've looked into algorithms before. It's not that bad. It's just a bunch of like axioms, right? Like based off of like different variables, and then they just use that to calculate. But one I just noticed, it says that can tank your recommendations to other people, like for future lives, as if, say, your views are low. If you quit midstream because the views are low, it tanks your future recommendations. So, like, if you go live and then within like 20 minutes you just don't get that many viewers, you quit. That makes it so next time you actually get less viewers,
Oh,
or at least recommended.
yeah, that could make
More
some
people.
sense. I could see that.
I would do like
That's my best
hashtag
guess.
Charlie D'Amelio or hashtag Mr. Beast or hashtag, like put these really like prominent figures maybe at the bottom, like people who have the most followers, just to see if it does have some sort of effect.
Yeah, I think they better
Is it
be. I think they better be relevant to your video. Otherwise, I think the algorithm is going to be able to sniff that out in a heartbeat. Like they got to be. If
I
you
don't
just
know.
use an opposite hashtag, I would think that the algorithms are
Is it
going to be smart enough to figure that out.
you think so? They're that sophisticated?
Yeah, when it
Maybe
comes
they
to that
are.
sort of things, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, main thing is engagement. That's the highest way to get like live priority, it says. So just basically like respond to, people's comments and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then
And it's
maybe so.
seasonal too.
I think you can put contests up and polls. I need to work on that. I need to get more engagement with contests and polls, something that we haven't done enough of. One thing to note, like the last video I did that now is closed. What's up, Orwell Fighting Fascist? Good to see you here again. Is the last video, I think it's like 20,000 reposts. So you can understand why that video is doing so well. I think maybe even 21,000 reposts. It's like an insane amount
Wow.
of reposts. And in those reposts, a lot of people tagging other politicians and other famous figures. I wasn't doing it. They're doing it. So I could see why that video did so well, because people are saying, oh, more people need to see this. And it's like double the most amount of reposts I've ever had, which was like prior to that was like 12,000, which I still thought was just like ridiculously high. And now this one is either at 17,000 or 21,000, some insane number. Actually, I have it right here. So reposts make sense that because reposting is also not that easy to do, right? It's out of all the buttons you have on TikTok, it's the most not obvious.
It's like word of mouth
Yeah.
when you're a contractor or an entrepreneur, it usually does the best as opposed to someone searching you up on Google or randomly finding you.
Yeah, supposedly there's a very, very small percentage of TikTokers that actually qualify and make money. It's like something like 0.1% that actually have over 10,000 followers and make consistent income. I thought that was interesting because I always thought a lot of TikTokers made good money. But
Well,
apparently not.
they lead you to believe that. Actually, I'm starting to make a few dollars here and there, but it's not a tremendous amount. But when you get on TikTok for the first time, everyone's talking about how much money they make on TikTok, because that's what the FYP is sending you to make more content, because you're going to make so much money. And yeah, that doesn't really work.
Yeah, it's only if you get gifts because like you don't get paid per like views, I guess, as far as like your live. And like I guess they pay so little for like actual views. I think it takes like 1 million views or something to even earn like I don't know what it was, but it's something like 40 cents per like 1,000 views or something like that. It's very little.
Yeah, isn't it close to like for every million views, something like $1,000? Or is that too high?
I want to say, yeah. Well, if he's saying 40 cents for, what did you say? 40 cents for 1,000 or?
I think that's what I
That
saw.
would
Let me look
that
it
would
up
be
again.
$4,000 per million. So it's way less than that. It's less than 10 cents.
Yeah, I think it's like 4 cents is what I'm thinking, not 40 cents. That's my bad.
Night, Orwell. Thanks for stopping in to give the live some love. Have a good night. You as well. Thanks for Ashley for sticking around, even though we're obviously not talking about the topic on the prompt anymore. So I'm looking at that last video. Yeah, 21,300 reposts.
The one thing you got going for you though, TK, is that you're very consistent. I've noticed that you are very consistent. You're almost on every day. You say you're going to be on when you say you're going to be on. So
Yeah, I
I
think I
think
need to
you
do
have that
better with
going
that.
for you.
I think if I get consistency more with the times, then maybe that will help. But I've been doing random times on purpose just to see when most people are going to tune in. Like, I don't know if some times are better than other times. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Let me see. I just looked that up actually. Best times are
The
early morning or late evening, apparently. And that's just, what it says here.
Yeah, I've been bad with the early mornings. I need to try some early mornings. Is you're still trying to get the cobwebs out of the mind to think, how can I change the messaging a little bit? Or
got
so,
to get the night shift workers when they're coming home, going to bed.
I feel like that's a lot of the TikTok people that scroll and doom scroll is like people that just go to work, and they get home and then they just doom scroll for like 5 hours.
yeah. Well, Pammy has an interesting comment here. She says, Pammy says, I've been in some lives that have goals set that they set a goal to make in cash that night. Is that literally like donations, or no? Is that the gifts? Like when you give a sombrero hat or all those, what do you call those?
They're gifts.
Gifts.
Yeah.
When you get the
Yeah, that's the
gifts,
main source of income.
so does the creator get money from the gifts?
Yes.
Oh yeah, the most you can get is like I think 175 for like a galaxy, I think.
So you
At
see
least
your
that's what I
little
remember.
rose right there on your screen. You
Rose.
have one set up. It's 0 out of 1 right now. If somebody sent you a rose, that would be your goal, and you can change that goal. See, somebody just did it for you.
Oh, thank you, Ashley. She said a rose is the least amount, right? Yeah. And a galaxy is the
Correct.
most?
I
Thank
believe
you,
so.
Ashley. Okay. And then you make money from that?
Correct.
Yeah, I think it's
That's why you're paying
anywhere
for them, right?
from,
I just did my first recharge of roses, I think 25 roses, whatever it was. I just thought it was TikTok making money. Excuse my naiveness with TikTok, but much
it's like
more.
2 cents a rose.
Well, that's cool. So thanks. So maybe if I set up goals, but the thing about the money is I want to make sure the money ends up going to a useful cause in terms of not charity, but I want to be able to use that money to hire. Like my number one thing right now would be to, if I could get someone that could clip these lives into highlights. So every now and then I get, a really good guest that has something interesting and we get into a good little dialogue. If you can clip that into highlights and put it on YouTube, that's where I think the real expansion or more followers, subscribers will happen, is clipping certain videos and helping with videos and clipping them up. Because obviously, the lives get long. They can be very boring at times, but if you can take the highlights of certain guests at certain times, they can be repurposed for YouTube. And that ideally. So like I would want to use any money I make to be able to pay those people so that I can, I need people to repost some of these videos that I make and turn them into not scripts, but articles on Substack and Medium and post them there and maybe on Reddit and other things. Because you just never know where your next 1,000 people or 10,000 supporters or 100,000 supporters are going to come from. So you just have to post, whether it's long form content, short form content, vertical content, videos, along with written content. All this stuff has to be published somewhere. So at some point, I need a small volunteer team, but I obviously would like to pay them. So
I think you might try to do your like fan club, because that's another thing that people can do is like it's like a YouTube subscription. Your fan club. You familiar with that?
yes, on YouTube.
Okay.
You're talking YouTube?
No,
Oh,
on
in here.
TikTok too. Yeah,
Okay.
up at the top by your name, the little heart. People can join you, and they can set up recurring like payments to you, like a subscription, um, to join your fan club, which could give them exclusive content as different from what you do on your lives, or your little short videos.
So the heart shows 55 by my name. Does that mean there's 55 fan club members?
That's what yeah.
Yeah, TK's fan club, new perks for your fan club set up now. Look at that. You just tap on things. There's 55 fans, 12 heart me, 8 go popular. Pammy, you just reached level 3. Thank you, Pammy. Look at that. I'm looking. Ashley, you just reached level 2. Thank you very much. Bobby 141. I haven't seen you here yet today. Oh, yeah, you were here and then not in this live. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So thanks, guys. Helping me figure this out. All right. So maybe we should set up some goals. Because again, like Crazy Veggies, what you said is it's about engagement. It's not just about comments, but it's about the roses, obviously, because that's how TikTok's making money as well. So if they have an opportunity to make money, they're obviously going to promote your live more likely versus someone who's not doing any of those goals. So even if I wasn't trying to do it for money, but if I was trying to do it for engagement, that you would think would be promoted more highly by TikTok itself.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, so the main things are basically engagement and session length. So like high and then very high engagement's the highest, and then second highest is session length. So it says you should be on for at least 1 to 2 hours plus.
Yeah, so
Probably like 2 hours.
it does say that after my lives, compared to other people in my space, which I would assume is the political category, usually my lives are between 93 and 99% more, what's the word you use? Not engagement, but people stay in my lives 93. I'm at the 93 or higher percentile than other people in the category. So that number always seems really strong.
Yeah, that's very high too. I don't know if that's higher than session length or not. It says high, so it's probably right there with session length.
You know, interesting.
You want it above 60%.
Yeah, the first 2 or 3 weeks I was doing this, it was always 99%. And they would send me a specific notice at the end of each live, like, wow, 99% higher than all the other, 99 percentile. And now recently that's dropped to about 93% most lives. So I wonder, like, that number might be dictating that it's not reaching as many people. But I did notice it was always at 99%. And I thought it was just sort of like a scam, like, oh, they're just trying to pump you up to make you feel better so that you do more lives. Like they just want more content. And then that number actually did move because it was always 99% for like the first 2 or 3 weeks. I'm like, this can't be real. And then it moved down recently to like 95%, 93%, some days 91%. So that's lower than it used to be. So maybe it's not as
For sure.
fake as I
One
thought.
way to maybe boost the watch time, it says, is like do structured segments. So you could maybe, like start off with, a Q&A, and then you can move on to like maybe like, talking about a specific like policy or like point,
Yeah.
and then move on to like final questions or something. You just do different segments. I've seen other live creators do that, and it seems to be a good way to, because it's like I think people get bored, sometimes.
Yep.
Like if it's just the same like question or same topic, or not topic, but you know what I mean. So it's like that helps make it a little more interesting.
I've thought a lot about doing that, but when I watch other people's lives, I don't see these segments. I'm looking for like someone to, copy or emulate, like someone that's doing it really well to make it more like, not like a news channel, but whether it's a game show or a news channel or show, there's always a format to it. And most of the lives, I don't see a format.
One of the best ones I've seen so far is Hunter of the Damned. This dude is like an ex-Homeland Security guy, and he used to hunt down, certain people. And yeah, he's got a good setup. He also promotes his book. He's got a book that he wrote, I guess. And he does like Q&A. He does like different segments. And I think he does a really good job of, going from each one. So I would check him out and kind of maybe not copy paste, but, because I don't know if you have any book to sell or anything, but.
No, let's see. Hunter of the Damned book. Let me see if I can just Hunter of the Damned as a user.
Yeah, he does lives, I think, like Monday through Friday or
He
something. He was one of the first live creators I actually kind of followed just because of the topic.
Does he only have 14,000 followers?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen his live in like a few days or something, but He could.
It's
He
if
might
it's
actually be
hunter
better than
dot
him. I don't
if
know.
it's hunter dot of dot the dot damn, that's 14,000 followers.
Yeah, that could be him. But he does do segments.
But there are a lot of people that have very few followers and very few video views that have very big followings on their lives. You know, some just don't
Yeah,
do
I think he
videos.
gets pretty good. Yeah, he gets pretty good followers on his lives. Like I've seen it like go over 100.
So he's got a beard, white beard.
regularly. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm gonna pay attention to him to see if he goes live and how many views he gets. All right,
What
Ash.
card out of the
And I've been
Mr. Beast book? Do a 24-hour live challenge.
Oh, we're bringing Pammy in. Pammy, you have to come in because you've been giving so many comments. So, you know,
Yeah, I wanted to tell you about that goal thing that I was talking about. Actually, people set cash goals. And you go up to their profile picture, you click on there, and you can actually go through, some of them have Venmo. The one that I'm referring to has PayPal and some other apps that you can go to and actually give them cash. And they set a goal on their live, whether it be $80, $100, $150, and they try to meet that goal each night.
and how does that number get updated if they're paying through PayPal or Venmo? How does the number that
Oh,
their
they
goal?
do it. They get notification that someone gave them, because usually they thank the person
Right.
if the person allows them to, and then they update it.
So they're manually updating it during the live.
Yeah, they're subtracting whatever someone gives them, but they can also go and set a new goal then. Like once they reach their first goal, they can go and set another goal for more money.
God, I'm so torn about that. Sounds
Yeah, I don't personally like it. I think I wonder about some of them, if they're just trying to do this to make cash money. I mean, this takes away from the gift. They'd rather not have gifts because apparently gifts don't give them as much money as the cash actually does.
it's probably just a
Yeah,
portion,
TikTok
right?
takes some.
Yeah, TikTok probably
Yeah,
takes
TikTok
50%,
takes a
right?
portion.
Yeah, I don't know what the
60.
percentage is. I don't personally know what the percentage is, but TikTok doesn't take from these cash apps because they
Yeah, I thought
actually
it was.
go ahead.
Yeah, at one point I heard that like they made it so you couldn't do that on here because of that kind of loophole because TikTok wants money, obviously. But I guess if
Well,
you can do it, that's probably the best way to go about it.
well, yeah, because this one girl that I follow, she does it. She does it every night. She's on just about every night, and she says she's a disabled single parent, and she does this to support her child, help support her child because her funding hasn't come through yet. And now that Thanksgiving is coming, she needs money for food, and she actually gets cash. I mean, there's people that give her $20. I've seen last night someone gave her $50. She made her goal twice.
What's her username?
Kendra,
Sounds familiar.
she's a pretty girl. I mean, she has long hair, but she's on now on the live.
Well, if you don't mind afterwards, Pammy, would you just DM me a message and with her profile?
Sure.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, because I'm just
Yeah.
looking who to emulate. I know like Parker and Dean Withers do it on the political side as well, and I have seen them. I thought it was against the terms and regulations to promote, obviously go to V or go to P and donate there.
Yeah. No, but you can. All you do is tap up at her profile picture, up at the left-hand corner, and it tells you where to go.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So
Yeah, it's very interesting. And she gets gifts, but she said gifts don't give her the money that she needs.
yeah, so I've noticed at the end of my lives, you get a screen that pops up and tells you how much you made. And most days it's literally like a penny or like 8 cents. It's not a lot.
Right.
And so
And that's fine. I mean, you're in here to spread the word about something good for the country.
right.
you know, and for the people. I don't care for the cash part of it.
But
You know,
if a goal like gifts allowed me to reach more people, then I would be not reluctantly for it. And then
right,
I could still use that money for, to paying someone to help me do things.
right, the gift part of it.
Right. Whatever, at the end of the day, you just have to play. Unfortunately, you just have to play the games that allows you to get as much exposure as possible, right? Because that's how you get to an actually outcome that we want.
Right. And I can see the gift part of it, the cash.
Uh-oh. We lost Pammy.
So she cut out.
Your phone died.
Pammy, you got to recharge your phone.
On 1%.
You're back.
Them air chargers.
Nope. She's gone again.
No, I was actually sending you a gift.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Oh, thank you.
You're awesome.
Thank you. That's the kitten?
Yes, it says you're awesome.
Funny. Okay, well, thank you for everybody for educating me on this. I just thought, if you actually just, look at Crazy Veggies with the rose.
I'm just
Dude,
trying to level up.
that's like that's a half a penny. I'm really grateful for that half a penny.
Let everybody send you some gifts here. That's the way
Yeah,
to do
I'm
it.
level 2. I'm level 2, so I'm higher than you. No, I'm just kidding.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Pammy. You too.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
That's what's amazing about these types of platforms. If YouTube, probably shouldn't say the name, if that other platform had a feature like this where guests can join, that would be really powerful. I can't believe they don't have this feature. Like, because, you have Dave Ramsey with call-in shows and the old school call-in shows. This is so much better. TikTok's amazing.
I thought they did. Don't they have like a live feature on YouTube? I've went into some lives before, but you mean people can't join?
They can't join as guests, right? You have a chat room. Right. You have a chat room, but you can't join as guests. Now, they supposedly have some new features coming out, but I didn't see that feature in the list. Because I do have people watching on YouTube, and they're always wondering, who are these people that are talking? How do I get there? And even though I have a little banner on the screen that says I'm taking guests live on TikTok, but this feature is incredible. I don't know who you guys are, and never met you guys before, but of course, we're able to have these conversations in real time and discussions, which is just, super cool.
There could be a way to circumvent that on YouTube if you set up a Discord channel and somehow displayed it on the YouTube to where they could join the Discord channel and then you could have a conversation with people that way. Or even like so there's some guys.
Yeah, but at that point, they just can come to TikTok and do it there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, some people are adamant and purely opposed to TikTok. They will not use the app. So.
There's Ashley with the Mystic. Oh, I don't know what a Mystic is. Thank you. I'd get more excited if I knew the Mystic was, something higher level.
I'm not sure. Let me look at the gifts again.
Tap your goal bubble and you can change your goals.
I'm going to set up some goals in the future, and I'll just have to vocalize that I'm going to try and use that revenue for people that can help. So he's ignoring me again. No one. Oh, what? Sorry, we were just off on a tangent. I'm not ignoring you. We just ignore everybody. It's not just you. You are universally ignored like everybody else, except for Pammy and Ashley. We don't ignore them.
Oh, there's some more gifts that go above 175 apparently, because the Galaxy is only 1,000 coins, but there's like gifts with like 5,000. There's one for 30,000 coins. Oh my gosh, how much would that be?
What's 1,000 coins? Is that $10?
No, that's like supposedly from when I looked last, it said it was like $175. Let me check again.
No one. I don't see a question recently from you. I'm going back. I don't know how far I need to go back, but just copy and paste again. I won't ignore you, and get a few followers so you can just join.
Well, TK, I appreciate you having me on. I'm I'm gonna hop off. I've got work in the morning, so
All right. Thank you, Mr. Global. Thanks for joining. I'm
yeah,
going to stay on just a couple more minutes and then because Pammy's saying to, well, anyway, so good night. Have a great night. Have a good day at work tomorrow, and I'll see you then.
we'll see it.
All right. TK set a gift goal. I don't know how to do that. Let's see.
Here's the cost ratio here. So looks like, I guess, a Galaxy is, oh, it's nowhere near that. I don't know. One time I asked Grok and it told me 175. Apparently it's only about $8 for a Galaxy. So the most is actually 400 plus for the 30,000 coins. And that'd be the Lion, I guess.
It cost $100 to buy 10,000 coins, says Bonnie. Kitty1X. Ashley's asking me to set a goal. I'm trying. No one says, I'm looking at all the comments. No one, I'm not seeing it. He's ignoring me. I'm not ignoring you. I'm looking for your comment to come through as I'm trying to set a goal at the same time. Ask it one more time, no one. It's frustrating for us as well. Oh, look at us. Celebrate. Oh, look at that. All right. I don't know what that does. Yeah, I don't see it either. Pammy says I don't see it again. You might be using restricted words.
Blocked. Yeah, it's blocking it. It's probably
Okay.
something that TikTok don't like. They need to come up with a list of things that like
They really do.
know what not to say, because I don't even know what it is. I don't think you can even see in the terms like if it says certain words or it's invisible.
Yeah, I've asked GPT many times, tell me what I can and can't say on TikTok, and it just doesn't give me anything useful.
Yeah, I guess that's smart though, because then people they can't like get around it. I guess they just end up having to face the penalties or something. I guess it's more honest, I guess, but I don't know.
Now, do you know how I can set a goal? Oh, is it right here? Is that the goal? Light up and live.
I think you've been on TikTok more than me. I've only been here for like a month and a half, something like that. I think I got in here like on, it's like maybe August or September.
Oh, there it is. I think edit your goal. Oh, there we go. Edit your goal 0 for 1. Gold medal. How do I do that? All right. I got a goal there. 0 for 1. It's a gold medal. That was the one it recommended. Okay, so no one says, TK, I sent you a DM, but you still have, well, no one. I'm on live. I can't read my DMs while I'm on the live. I can do that afterwards, but not during. If I leave this screen, then it goes blank for everybody on the live. And I'd ask you to be a little patient. Yeah, I know you're getting frustrated, but for some reason he doesn't seem to have a lot of patience. Can't help him with that.
Might be a bot. Let's see. 2 followers, 6 follow. I don't know.
Did I reach my goal? So you think it's a bot? No, I don't think it can be a bot. He sounds much too. I sent it 2 days ago. No, I'm not a bot. That's exactly what a bot would say, dude.
I know, it's like there's no verification. Unless we see like a video or a photo.
Wait, you're still live? How long you going?
It's like 8 hours. I've been like 8 hours straight.
Holy cow.
No, I'm kidding.
Dude.
I'm kidding. I
No.
just came back on an hour and a half ago,
Oh,
but
you did? Okay, I was just on a debate live, so I was scrolling through and I was like, holy shit, there you are.
did you win the debate?
No, I wasn't debating. I was just so like we were anyway, yeah. So after the debate we have open discussion, and so I don't know. There's no winning.
No, there's no winning. If they're in a cult, you'll never get them to admit they're wrong. That's not how cults work.
Exactly. But I was going to tell you that you can, if you go off screen, your live will pause on your side, but it won't for the other people. I didn't know if you knew that.
No, I don't know that, but how would I even get to my DMs from this screen?
Oh,
Oh, it doesn't matter. Actually, I can just go to my DMs
I
from
guess.
another app.
What,
That
do you have a second device?
I do have a second device. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
All
There you
right.
go. All right. I just carry on. Carry on.
Well, appreciate it. Good seeing you here again. Maybe we'll see you
Yeah,
this week
yeah.
some
I'll see
point.
you soon.
All right.
All
Thank
right,
you.
bye guys.
Bye.
Uh-huh.
So I'm looking. Oh, Paul is gone. I'm looking for no one. I'm looking for a DM from you. I have no DM from you. I do have a lot of them. So it's 2 days ago. Nothing here. I set a goal. Did anybody reach the goal? Did I reach the goal? Fan club 101? How do I know if I reached the goal or not? Gold medal,
I think
0
I
to
still
1.
see the gold medal is 0 to 1. Yeah, that's the only thing I see. I don't see a goal like other than that.
All right, we have some new people here, so let me answer some questions based on the prompt since we've been going way off. Original Constitution must be the foundation. Todd Winter 3, are you talking about the first 10 amendments and the original Constitution and not the additional 17 amendments? Let me know in the comment if you think the original Constitution must be the foundation, or you just saying that the Constitution in general, including the amendments, must be the foundation. Because that's what I believe. It's not really what I believe. That's the form of government that they set up. It was allowed to have amendments. I do know there's people out there that thinks that we shouldn't have changed the Constitution at all after the first 10 amendments. If that was the case, they shouldn't have allowed it to be evolved and changed. Was not the purpose. The purpose was to change with the times. You can't expect 17th century morality, 18th century morality to stay, humanity not to evolve. So I sure hope you mean all 27 amendments and even more if we were able to pass more, the 28th and 29th Amendment, which I believe we really need to do. So welcome to the show, Todd Winter 3. What are your thoughts on a direct democracy? So I like this question a lot. It works for some countries. It's a direct democracy in theory. Sounds like it's probably the most purest form of democracy for SD Cone. But it's actually very inefficient. From everything that you read about direct democracies, they're really slow to react. They don't work in very dynamic countries that have lots of changes happening. Switzerland has a direct democracy and it works for them, sort of, because not a lot changes quickly in Switzerland. So they can wait for people to vote on every issue and it's very effective for them, but it's also not that efficient. So a direct democracy, in theory, seems to be a great idea, but then you have to assume you'd have to have a much more literate political society than we currently have. And it's not really feasible to have a direct democracy in the United States. And it's something that the founding fathers considered deeply, and they went with a representative democracy. So you have to stay with a representative democracy unless you want to tear down the whole house, which I think is insane to do because you'll never build it back up. You understand that the founding fathers were vastly more knowledgeable about politics, about the world order that they even were in the 1700s than the vast majority of people today are. They're much more politically astute than the vast majority of individuals on this planet, I would even say, because they took 11 years from the Declaration of Independence to the Constitution to actually ratify the Constitution. So it was something that took a long time, had a lot of deep thought by very intelligent men, and that's what they came up with. So I would say keep the representative democracy. Democracy is socialism, mob rules. No, democracy is not socialism. I mean, it's an absurd comment because that's why they have different definitions. They're clearly not the same. Representative democracy was needed based on the transfer of information that True. I would say it still very much works for today as well. They all have flaws and warts and so forth. But a representative democracy, if you have good people that are truly representing the people and aren't representing the money that's helping them get elected, which is my whole point that needs to be removed, then you would have a much better, more efficient political system than we have today. Would it be perfect? Absolutely not. Nothing is going to be perfect, but it would be much, much better for everybody other than the billionaires than it is today. So thanks for those questions. I'll give you my thoughts. I always call a spade, but hopefully do it with the right amount of tact. When pre-Civil War Constitution using the original 13th Amendment, no titles of nobility amendment. No, I think that's absurd. Pre-Civil War Constitution. Oh, pre-Civil War Constitution using the original 13th Amendment. No, it's not how it was designed. The Constitution was designed to evolve. So anyone suggesting that, you're telling the Founding Fathers that they shouldn't have, and they went back and forth between the Federalists and Anti-Federalists to dictate how things should change. And that's the system they put into place. It's not the problem is not the document. See, this is the most ridiculous conversation, is people going back to the constitutions and whether we should follow the first 10 amendments and not the rest of the amendments or anything else. The problem is not the document. It's the people in government not abiding by the document. That's the problem. It's the people problem. It's not a constitution problem. So all these different ideas about should we follow this part of the Constitution or that? No, follow it all. Follow it the way it was designed to work and the way it's working. But the way it's not working is the people aren't following the rule of law, which means the Constitution. And that's why we're in this mess that we're in. It has nothing to do with the document. And it's everything to do with the people that who take an oath to the document and then don't abide by it. That is the problem. Sammy Dubai, tell me when you encounter a tough challenge and I will help you win. I don't know what that means. The no titles.
Side note.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you've ever looked up like each political system and like put it into like ChatGPT or Grok, but I did see that like, I guess the one that has the least amount of problems and does say that it functions the best. Like I do forget all the details on it, but it did say that the constitutional monarchy actually was like the best form, like in a lot of ways, like overall for like compared to like every other form. But that's assuming that people follow the Constitution, right? That are gonna be the monarch. And so that's the issue with it entirely, is like you said, the people.
Well, the monarchy
But
is
in
the
theory, it
family.
works best.
Well, the family, the monarchy is typically a family or a small group of individuals. And again, that only works as well as the people that are running in charge, right? The integrity of those people determine whether it functions well or not well. So it ends up being a people problem as well, doesn't it? I actually have done that research before, but I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, it was like telling me about like, the other details of like outside of just the person that's running the government, but as far as like how the rest of society functioned, it said that like it in practice has like lower crime even, and like certain other things were like just better metrics, which I thought was odd, but in theory supposedly it's better, I guess, in practice.
There's truth to that, because typically you could even claim that fascism or communism on the most extreme, there are measures that show that they're better for certain people because they do have less crime. It's known that a more free democracy typically has much more crime. It's actually it's a feature. And the more you can clamp down on the crime, it means the more controls you have, which takes away certain amounts of freedom. So you can argue that communism has some of the least amount of crime because of the controls they have on it. And fascism as well, because they don't count certain crime on certain individuals and certain minorities. But for those people that are in that class of people or in that religion, there's not much crime, because they take care of the crime very harshly. So there are measures like you're talking about that show if you're measuring a certain thing that, like equality or crime, there are many forms of government that actually will show better measurements Does it say, mean it's better? I think that's up to the society to decide.
For sure, yeah. I mean, like, I think overall it just kind of it is interesting how in theory America is like a experiment, and it's kind of it's evolving, you know. And I can't imagine like really what like the founders would think of like right now with what's going on. If they would agree, if they would disagree. I don't personally believe though they would have expected the diversity that we have like of ideas and like what's gone on. I think that could be at the crux of it all is we've actually expanded so fast in the past like few decades that we don't really know what to do with all that we've learned. So it's kind of like democracy's struggling because of that. It's hard to encapsulate all of the diversity that we have into a formulated sort of like way to govern.
Yeah, I could see your thinking on that. I would say just from the after the Civil War era, Civil Rights era, and the Voting Rights Act and so forth, when everybody had one vote and there was less corruption in the political system, less money influence, the direction, while you were living in it in the 70s, 80s, and 90s and 2000s, early 2000s, didn't seem like the progress was that moving that quickly. When you look back at history from the 50s through 2000, the evolution of our representative democracy was pretty dramatic. The amount of consumer protections we had come out in the 70s that protected consumers from various, over exploitation by companies, the voting rights that were expanded for people of color and, of course, women, and the general direction and the compromise that was happening, even though there was a lot of arguing back then in politics, there was always, you had Joe Biden, been there for 50 years with the John McCains and others that had radically different views on issues, but they always passed legislation that was a compromise. So if you took a view after the 1950s, or even before the 1950s, when you went through those voting rights acts and so forth, the evolution of our representative democracy towards being what they say, the quote, more perfect union, was actually really quite significant when you look at it at a historical perspective. When you take a step back and look at it, it was actually moving really well in the right direction. That's why I do these lives, because to try and tell people, like, it's mostly all the changes are the influence of money that have changed the courts, that have allowed the ruling like Citizens United, that have allowed the fairness doctrine to be eliminated, campaign finance restrictions to be eliminated, the rise of the super PACs, the rise of Trump, and all these things. Like, it all comes back to the money, all of it. And I would argue that from the 50s to the 2000s, if we would have kept the same restrictions, didn't even have to do anything better, which we still should have done things a lot better. But if you kept the same restrictions on media and on money, that to this day, we would be another quarter of a century moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that because I read that I guess Obama took away the ability for, I guess the media or something to have to publish actual fact and not propaganda. What was that called?
That was the fairness. That was the fairness doctrine of 1987. Unless you're talking about something else. That was during Reagan.
I guess. Oh, really? I thought it was something else under Obama that like he took away the like. Here, let me look it up. So
there may
it's,
be
like,
something
to do with the media, like propaganda in the media. Like I guess he passed something that allowed there to be propaganda in the media, which is for them to be able to lie and stuff and not face any kind of like repercussions or something like that. I'm not sure. It could be just like a conspiracy. I don't know.
Yeah, that would have
I
been in
think I saw it on
Congress. It
X or
still would have been Congress. Maybe it was with Obama's blessing, but you have to look it up to see what we're talking about. Representative democracy founders never used democracy when labeling our constitutional republic. Todd Winters, really good comment. Let me set it straight. So Todd Winter, please go find your birth certificate and tell me if it says human being on it. It's not a joke. Go look at the early scriptures of the Bible for like the first 1,000 years. There was no mention of anything calling the Bible the Bible. When the founding fathers spoke about creating the government, they often talked about democracies, direct democracy, representative democracy, and so forth. But the form of representative democracy that they decided on was a constitutional republic. And that's why it's a constitutional republic. But it is a form of democracy called a representative democracy. So the big house is representative democracy. The smaller house underneath it, or the house within the house, is, or the room within the house, is a constitutional republic. So when you say the founders never used democracy, yes, they did use the term often, speaking about it, but when they wrote the constitutional republic of the Constitution, it didn't need to be used because that's not how this works. Just like your birth certificate doesn't say human being. Just because the word democracy doesn't show itself in the Constitution doesn't mean that's what we are, because we are. And if you don't think so, I just ask you to go to ChatGPT or Google and understand the hierarchy of these democracies, of democracy and constitutional republics versus just republics. So that it's a, what's the word? Not false. It's not a false equivalency, but it's not the proper way to make your argument.
So I just found it. I guess it's the Smith-Muntz Act or Munt Act. And I guess it was just a conspiracy. It's mainly for just like when we target, I guess, foreign media or something like that.
Oh, that's right.
Disseminating.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah, someone spun that into like a conspiracy. Like that was the reason why there's been so many lies in the media. And I guess they were wrong on that. I haven't had time to look it up. But
Well,
now
just
that
look
I
at the
have, I feel better about it.
look at the conspiracies around CK. Like it's just absurd. Out in the public with hundreds of people watching it, and the conspiracies that are coming out of that are just stunning.
I know, and that hit me hard. I'm not gonna lie. I was laying in bed the day, right, that it happened, and I woke up, and it was just a couple hours after it happened, and boom, every X post was the video.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna lie, I really thought we went at war at that moment because I did think, just from looking at what they were saying and looking at some of the video, it didn't make much sense to me. And I have like a security background, so like I instantly was like in fight or flight, right? So I had like a dump of like adrenaline, and I'm just like looking at it as close as possible, you know. I'm like, what's going on here, you know? And you feel this like energy, and it's like, man.
Yeah,
But
I
they're
did.
lying
I
on
did
it
as
for
well,
sure.
but I actually never watched the video. I will never watch that video. I don't need to. I've watched enough things in my life. Like I didn't need to watch the video, but the audible gasp, and my wife thought there was something extremely wrong with one of our kids, because when that happened, I knew it was going to change things on how certain groups of people viewed things, because I knew how influential he was to the younger generation.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's what's came out of it though is a positive where they've identified sort of the Groyper community and sort of
Mm.
like some of the people responsible for some of the underpinnings of like some of the ideology, right?
Right.
So these are people that are, I believe, associated with some other groups that have been coming out in the past year as well that have been targeted by the FBI and I guess, you know, Trump's administration. So like 764, I don't know if you're familiar with them.
No.
But that's, you know, blackmail people. They blackmail, like, and I don't know how to say it without getting, I don't want to get your life taken down. It's too vulgar. But yeah, there's that group. And then there's also like the Zizian group. So this was a cult formed by like a couple people as well. I won't name what they are, but you can look up Zizians and you can look up 764. And I believe a lot of these people are somewhat associated in sort of like methodology and sort of like their beliefs. I mean, they're cultish in their ways, you know.
Right.
But they're very dangerous to society. So it's like it's very scary.
A lot of very dangerous groups out there, and it's all been made possible because hate is acceptable, right? So they're coming out of the woodworks. Coming with the real something, I can't read the full username, says, in the 80s and 90s, people didn't say they hated Trump. They loved him. Okay, let's set the record straight. I'm from New York and New Jersey, family in New Jersey, from New York, knew about Trump as early as 1977 because he was always in the headlines and not for the right reasons. For people to say they loved him in the 80s and 90s, I'm telling you personal experience from the 77 as a young buck, understanding that that guy was a POS, that he had no moral integrity. He only cared about being in the news, and he was always a douche. from not paying people, contractors in Atlantic City, people in New York did not like this man unless he was actually doing something for them. He was not popular in New York. He was somewhat accepted because he hung around with the Clintons in the 90s. And he was viewed as, hey, I'm not that bad because I'm a Democrat, and New York was a Democratic city. And he ended up, I wouldn't say fitting in, but he was in the inner circles. So he took a little bit of the edge off and he wasn't as hated. But to say Trump wasn't hated in the 80s and 90s, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. It's not true. He was despised and loathed by a large segment of the New York community. And that's why he doesn't win. If you think he's from New York, which he has been, but he never even wins New York in the election as the state, as the electoral votes. He always loses it. He's always been a D-bag to New Yorkers because he has literally stolen and grifted money away from thousands and thousands and thousands of families all throughout New York and New Jersey. So no, you're wrong. Like point blank, you are absolutely wrong. And Pammy, you backed that up, that you never liked him. Yeah, what a D-bag. He's always been a grifter. He's never used his own money. He's bankrupt 6 times. He has a fraudulent university. Like, oh my God, talk about a POS. This guy is one of the worst despicable human beings that you can imagine. You can't create much more of a despicable human being. If he could have gotten away with worse, he would have. So, yeah, no. I'm from Chicago, and Pammy, that platform will solve issues, bring about new ideas for people. Release the files. Absolutely. Like, release the files. He's in there. Of course he's in there. He's been in the manifest of the flights. He's been photographed with him gawking at young women. I mean, he bought a pageant so he can basically go in and just walk into rooms where young women are getting dressed. Give me a break. Yeah, watch the movie Apprentice. He had to return $25 million enrolled in Trump University, right? You know, by any measure, if you think that he isn't a D-bag, it's because you maybe have similar lack of morals and integrity and character and lack of decency, and you're also not trustworthy. Like, that's the only way that if you truly believe this is a man of any sort of principles, because you don't have any principles. Like, there's no other way. If you have principles and you truly believe in your principles and values, you cannot like this man as a man. Think I was clear enough, Crazy?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even I think people who support him will even agree with you that he is a D-bag. It's just that they choose certain policies, I guess, in certain ways, right? It's like the lesser of two evils argument. And I think that's a really poor way to choose your politicians or people that you choose to be president, right? Because it shouldn't be about lesser of two evils, right? It should be about who is best for the position. So
Right.
it's having to choose between lesser of two evils is kind of a cop out way to say that, well, I'm secretly a D-bag. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which there are a lot of people like that, unfortunately.
And even when you vote for some issue that you think they're going to solve, you're sacrificing your own moral integrity when you do that. I mean, you just are, because you should be always, ideally, a person could be the most boring, lame human being in the world, but if they have moral integrity and decency and trustworthiness, you should vote for that person all day long over some person that might have charisma in your view, in someone's view, or be able to speak better in front of a camera. Like, should not be a popularity contest. Of course, the reality is it is in some ways. But ideally, that's not how you want to pick, like, Hitler in Germany, right? Or Martin Luther King on the other end of the spectrum. They were just great orators, and they were able to inspire, one for hope and one for hate. And that's how things work.
Yeah, it's called the Tower of Babel. Have you ever heard the theory about the Tower of Babel, or
No,
the Babel theory or whatever?
no.
So it's this theory in like I guess like I don't know if it's psychology, sociology, but it just goes to say that like whoever speaks the most is the person that people tend to gravitate towards the most as like the leader of any group. So I think that's something Trump knows very well, and I think especially for Eichler and some other people, they know that if they talk enough, eventually there will be people that will follow them. They won't follow them because their ideals are good, but they'll do it just because there's a lot of insecure people, you know, and especially like, you know, narcs. Narcs are the most insecure people that we have, and those are the people that gravitate towards someone who speaks a lot, even though they're not right or they're bad people.
I think that could coincide, or there could be a correlation between, I think, what Clinton said about a strong voice by a weak individual is more powerful than the opposite, something of that nature. Someone in the comments might know it, but I think there's a correlation between what you're saying. You'll take someone who's sounds strong but is weak over someone that is strong and sounds weak.
Yeah, basically. And this is something I've known my whole life. I grew up in a family of narcissists, and you know, no matter what I said, right, you know, because I'm not that smart, but I'm in that unfortunate range where like I'm smart enough to know I'm not dumb, but I'm also not smart enough to know I'm not, you know, that smart. So they were just not smart people, a lot of my family and friends I had. But it's very hard to get through to them, right? Because they talk so much. But they can be very wrong, and that's very dangerous at times.
Well, that's sort of like the Dunning-Kruger effect. And when people talk about thinking that they're not smart, so like historically speaking, if you didn't do well in school, does that mean you're not smart? I would say no. It's about knowledge and how you apply that knowledge and comprehension. If you have knowledge and true comprehension of the language that you're speaking, like when people argue about where we're a republic and we're not a democracy, it's like that's a dead giveaway. Like you're number one, you haven't been smart enough to actually do the research, and you're just regurgitating someone else's talking points because you don't understand the comprehension behind the meaning of those definitions of those, you know, those things. So I view it as you don't have to be school smart, and that makes people feel dumb because they didn't test well. But at the end of the day, if you understand comprehension and you're knowledgeable because you've consumed a lot of good information, then you're more intelligent than 99% of the people. Or maybe not
Yeah, for
intelligence the
sure.
right word, but you know, you're obviously more informed. Okay, so the electrical contractors put a lien on the DC post office hotel. He didn't pay them, of course. Now he doesn't pay anyone. Like this is what he does. Okay.
Creon 2 said you were wrong and vile. Who's he speaking to?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's hard to tell when someone's doing that. I'm wrong and vile. I am vile. Yeah. You know, I always, you know, some people take offense when people say, you know, nasty things in the comments. But it's always funny, like that type of thing never bothers me at all, ever, because if they always say who they are when they're speaking to you, like if that was to me, which I don't know if it is, right? Vile, like your choice of words is so off base. It's laughable. I kind of laugh at those type of comments because, you know, you sometimes get them. I don't get a lot of hate by any means because I try and make sure I'm a staunch independent, and I oppose both parties in an ideal world, and would rather have regular Americans serve in office that are well-meaning, right? But these funny when you see these types of comments, some people obviously get really affected by them. But if you just read in knowing that they can't comprehend the words or they're not using words properly and they're just, you know, they're just name calling, it's kind of comical. It's actually, it's more of
Yeah,
a,
it's more hyperbole.
yeah, it's more of a reflection on them. And I know it's that. So it's like just like complete force field. It never affects, those things never affect me. Now, if someone challenges my wisdom and challenges my thought, and they bring up a really good point, I don't say it's an ego hit, but it's like, oh shit, they're right. There's something there. There's a blind spot that I had, And that upsets me, but not because they didn't have to name call, but when they actually used reasoning and critical thinking to provide a counter argument, that hurts. Because after all the information and all the years, you're like, shit, I still have blind spots here. And you're like, and no one likes being corrected, right? No one likes it. I don't mind it, but it never feels good.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, that was my biggest problem for a while. Because I started getting on this other app called Clubhouse, and this is where I first got into the political debates and philosophical stuff.
Yep.
And
$1 billion
I noticed
Clubhouse.
right away. Yeah, I noticed right away. I got into a group of people who I knew were smarter than me, at least some of them. And I always listen first before I try to like come in and respond. But I wouldn't say it's like I'm lying in wait for someone to fail or to be incorrect, but I'd like to know that the people I'm around are willing to be criticized. So that's like a thing I noticed is there's a lot of people that are unwilling to be criticized in politics and with like their worldview and a lot of other stuff. And that's just really a shameful thing, because it's like it's very hard to think that you know everything in such a crazy topic where it's like always ever changing. But a lot of people seem to want to do that. And I think it's more to do with like the fact that everyone's busy with their lives, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have the time. So I don't shame them completely for it, but when they use it as a cudgel and they think they're correct, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, two things I always point to. So I've spent time in rural America with, people, a lot of people would call rednecks and so forth, and, people that are not very well educated in terms of higher education. But the funny thing is about these people who have relatively simple lives, whether they're farmers and something and churchgoers and so forth, they have simple lives, but so many of them are some of the most clever, witty people that you can come across. And sometimes they make you feel dumb, even though their knowledge of the world is not very acute. But they have an intelligence that's there. It's just maybe not being optimized. It's for their current worldview. But they're really bright people that just aren't really informed. And if they were informed, they would be intellectual challenges. Let's call it like that, right? And but then you also know, the Dunning-Kruger effect?
Yeah. I knew that back in like I want to say like 2015, 2016 is when I first heard of it.
Yeah. Do you remember it? Do you remember how it works?
Yeah. So like generally like smarter people are less confident in their intelligence and lower intelligent people are more highly confident.
Yeah. Sort of
Generally what it is.
the less you know, the more you think you know, and the more you know, the more you realize how little you know.
Basically, yeah. And then there's like a weird bar graph, or not bar graph, but like, whatever graph that is, where it shows like anytime you learn a skill, right? So I learned guitar when I was like 12. So in the very beginning, I felt like just doing the simplest thing, I was like so good at it, right? But then as I increased in my level of knowledge about the guitar and music, I realized how little I actually knew. And I felt horrible for it because I was so confident at first just because I could play like an AC/DC song or something,
Right.
I was like, oh, I'm a master. But then you get better and better and you're like, wow, I'm so bad. And then it gets to a point where you actually feel like miserable because of how bad you feel, like your knowledge level. But then you hit this like level where you're like, okay, I'm actually getting good now,
Yeah.
And that's when you start to notice like you're really doing something. And some people never get to that point, I don't think. It's very hard to get to that point where you master
You're
the
lucky
skill
if you
and
get to
knowledge
that
base.
point in just one or two things, one or two subject matter, right? If you become a subject matter expertise or a skilled, you have a certain skill, it's very rare that you have more than a couple of those things.
Yeah, you have polymaths out there, but they're very rare. It's you more so get the jack of all trades, or you get somebody who's just highly efficient and like masterful in like one specific area, which is typically the higher of the IQs. I guess there's like a thing that's known with high IQ people.
Hmm.
They tend to be extremely good at one thing and one thing only,
Right.
like chess, politics, or psychology, or like, computers, whatever it may be. And they're very not knowledgeable about other stuff, but they're still smart with other stuff. They just don't know enough, and they know how it works, right? Where they don't know enough to even make a decision, so they just don't do it.
Well, I have a really good story about that. Let me just get to thank some TWH. Thanks for the corn 50 times. That's awesome. Thank you, Pammy, for the populars. and Pammy more populars and so forth. Your mom informed. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any questions. Intelligence is not determined by a test. Absolutely not. Okay. So my mother worked for a European, basically like the European NASA. It was called the Max Planck Institute. It's actually world famous. I was a very young kid, and I remember walking into her office once, or not once, many times, frequently, and there were these people there, and they were weird. And I was young, like 10, and I could speak their language, but they couldn't communicate with me in normal language. I had trouble understanding them, even though they were speaking the language. They looked weird. They spoke weird. They had no social skills. And I thought my mom worked in just a home of some just weird people, like, again, because I was 10. And I said, those people, I made a comment once as a 10-year-old, and she said, those are some of the smartest, most intelligent people in the world. And I said, what? And they were mathematicians, right? They were just these extreme mathematicians. But they couldn't communicate with me. They couldn't interact with a young kid. It was just very awkward. And you just knew the energy as soon as you walked in the room. And she always used to tell me how intelligent these people were. And I used to just look at her like, no, they're not. How can they be so intelligent? And I realized obviously later on, because they were working for a very high scientific community in space exploration and other things, that they were just, mathematicians at the Max Planck Institute. And that's what all they were using their brain for, right? Their ability to have social skills and normal everyday interactions with people just wasn't something they were focused on. And this wasn't just like one or two people. These were like dozens and dozens of just really strange people to me as a 10-year-old. And that just shows they're highly intelligent and skilled in a very small facet of their life. And their ability or aptitude, not aptitude, but, they were very intelligent people that could have probably utilized it much better across a broader spectrum of life, but they didn't need to because they were just focused on, certain objectives that were very narrow.
Yeah, that is the case usually. I did work with someone that smart before. He was the 99th percentile in mathematics and was a computer engineer and software programmer for a majority of his life. And I worked with him at like an AutoZone, if you can believe it. He was retired already.
Wow.
He's just working AutoZone because he likes cars. He built cars also in his free time. But I was surprised because this is when I first started working, and he was like this first person I ever met that was this smart. Because I quoted actually some stuff about the Dunning-Kruger effect to him. I was like, and then he actually, this is how you know you're dealing with someone that's intelligent. You could know, say, Dunning-Kruger effect, right? You bring that up, and with someone who's very, very intelligent, you can tell them that, and they will give you who came up with it, and they'll give you way greater depth and knowledge about it. And that's how I knew I was dealing with the real deal. I'm like, okay, this person knows 10 levels deep. I know 2 levels, maybe 3 if I'm lucky to remember. But they just recall information so much better because they have a higher functioning, brain. There's just more connections and stuff.
They don't even have to recall it. It's, I know where you're going with it. It's not a recollection for them like it is for you, because as a second level, it's a depth of understanding that it doesn't have to be recalled, because they have the depth of understanding is so deep and so great that it's not even recollection. It's pure understanding, right? It's a very different thought process.
Yeah, that's definitely what it is, for sure.
Yeah, when
I've seen that in action. It's very interesting.
Yeah, if you really know your subject matter, like when you went on those Clubhouse things, when you truly know your subject matter, like people who go on TED Talks, you get a lot of just regular people that are extraordinary in a certain subject matter. And they can go onto a stage with just a few bullet points, and they can just talk for hours about the subject matter. And it's just natural for them because their level of understanding and depth of understanding is so deep, they can just speak about it effortlessly, answer all the questions. And outside of their one or two things of subject matter expertise, they would be bumbling fools. So if you just ask them to talk about some random topic where they don't have that depth, they could never stand on that stage and speak as clearly and eloquently as they do when they're talking about their subject matter. That's how you know. Like when people tell you who they are, you just have to listen to them. When you listen to them, if they know their subject matter, you can hear the confidence and the clarity at which they say and how they use their words.
Yeah, I had one good teacher like that, and surprisingly, it was a history teacher back in like I think 7th grade, and that was like the best teacher I ever had. But yeah, I think it's interesting though, like IQ and knowledge, intelligence, because I don't know that it's important to be successful, because that's what I find interesting is like most intelligent people actually aren't that successful. I think
Yep.
it's like correlated, but I think the majority are really kind of like they choose other interests, where they just survive and enjoy their life or something.
Yeah, because when you're really successful, you got to be able to sell it, whatever you're doing. Just knowing it doesn't mean you're good at selling it, right? And doesn't mean you're good at building something or making something. It just means you know something deeply. So it's success, monetary success particularly, is not reflective of intelligence or knowledge. Okay, Pammy, yeah, we were going to go a long time ago, but we're obviously just doing. I'm so sorry, but you don't have to be sorry at all. Thank you for all the gifts and so forth. I'll be around all week long, so thanks for joining. I also had a really nice message on a DM from Linda. I popped into your live stream, and I'm really impressed by your vibe. I was a little tired today, so I couldn't stick around. Could you share your live stream with me next time? So really nice. And then some more spam. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for sticking around. I know the audience is only 30 left. And thanks Crazy Veggies for joining again. You're now your official friend of the show. So appreciate you being here.
Hey, it only took 3 times. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no,
I have a very
it keeps
low
popping
bar.
up, so yeah, I just like the calm, chill vibe because most of the TikTok lives I see are just kind of they're a little bit too crazy for me.
Yeah, and
Even
thanks
though my
for
name's Crazy Veggies.
yeah, there you go, right? And thanks for the sharing whatever you learned when you're looking up this stuff on TikTok and everything else. These conversations are helpful. At the end of the day, I have a lot to learn. Believe it or not, I've actually built social media platforms and messaging platforms for myself and for companies. So I have a lot of experience in tech and building some of these things. But every time you go to a new platform, there's just different nuances that you just don't get. And of course, I'm not as young as I once was. So I'm always learning, and TikTok is still relatively new to me. So, and there's a lot of different features on TikTok that the other platforms don't have. So I feel like a noob lots of times on TikTok. And of course, I'm a noob when it comes to actually putting my face on in front of a camera and speaking to people. So it's all a big
Yeah,
learning
that's
curve.
something I could never do. Most I've done is just talk through like voice, on Clubhouse and things like
No, you
that.
do a good job though.
Not a public speaker.
You do a good job. You're a good speaker. So, something that, again, I won't name names because I don't want to ever dox myself, at least not at this point. But I ran a publishing company. It was my own company that I built and sold. And we were one of the early pioneers in YouTube creators. And our channel had over 500 million views prior to 2012. So, we were pretty big, but we had lots of creators. I called them at that time editors because they weren't called creators then. We sort of defined them as editors because we were one of the really early companies that was doing content creation. And we had up to about 20 creators working for our company. And I was never on camera. I was always the guy figuring out the metrics, understanding the measurements, figuring out what we could do next. So the idea guy, one of the idea guys. But we had amazing creators that had most of the ideas, and all I had to do is say, go try it, go do it. But I was always jealous of them, or envious is the better way to say it, of them being able to film themselves by themselves, know their subject matter, and just do an incredible job. They were really, really popular in the online space. One of them I give away a little bit, is the largest technology reviewer in the world right now. And he worked for us when he was very, very young. And just so cool to see some of these creators still creating today. A lot of them, actually. And again, I was always envious of how well they spoke. And I said, someday I would love to be able to convey my thoughts and be, lack of a better word, brave enough to be on camera and talk about it. So it took me like 20 years to like start getting comfortable with it. Not even start getting comfortable, just like actually wanting to do it. And it was this topic, primarily this one, because this one frustrates the heck out of all of us who are watching. Like, politics is just maddening today. And it's something that I've been studying for geopolitics and economics and just society and cultures. I've been studying these things for decades now. And I think I have the subject knowledge expertise to actually put myself on camera and start talking about these issues. And I also have the time. So when going back to you, Crazy Veggies, it's time, right? Over time, and even in the beginning of the videos, and even to this day, especially when you're doing videos, lives are much easier than creating videos. For some reason, when you're looking into a camera and you know there's no one there on the other side, speaking clearly and thoughtful is much more difficult than when you see these comments and you see people and you actually know you're talking to people. It doesn't actually feel like you're speaking to a camera. It actually feels like you're speaking to people, which is very normal for all of us. So that's just a thought there. It's kind of interesting on the evolution on how that works. So
Yeah, for sure.
time and
I think I know
practice.
who you're talking about.
You do?
Like, yeah, I think you mentioned, yeah, and start with is like MB. Is
Yep.
it like the initials maybe?
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it. Yeah.
I hope I didn't give nothing away, but
No.
yeah, for sure, man. That's crazy. I mean, that guy, I used to watch him when I was like still, I guess like I was going to college, then I dropped out, but you know, it was like my first 2 semesters and I used to watch him along with like a bunch of other people. And then there was like this exodus for me of just like online content because like I knew it was kind of like wasting a lot of my time, you know, and I just kind of got away from it. And it's just interesting. I just came back to it. And I kid you not, like I haven't consumed or subscribed to anybody on YouTube or anywhere for like at least 3 years. And I just got back into it and seeing where it's gone, it's actually kind of disheartening because back then it was more genuine and it wasn't as full of just a bunch of, you know, clickbait and like kind of rage bait type stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say there isn't anybody that's still doing honest content. It's just the overwhelming majority is just, it seems like it's mostly driven by money.
Especially on TikTok. Yeah, there's still great creators on YouTube that are obviously motivated by money. Money is just a fact of life. They have to make money, but there's still a lot of great content, I think, on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
Yeah, I remember that young buck when he was 15 years old. Like, it's like to see where he is today is just really awesome.
I think he's from New York too, right? Isn't that how you met? Or
Jersey. But
Jersey.
no, actually, I don't know if we ever met in person. We had communications, but he had a different supervisor. So, and he was young, right? So, but he was wicked talented even at that time. And that's why he decided to move on his own because he was just a stud, right? And that's, you know, it's hard to keep those people around. They have their own missions in life and their own goals and objectives. And it's really cool to see. All right. Well, Crazy Veggies, thanks for joining. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll probably be around later tomorrow or something if you get back on.
Yeah, I'll be around tomorrow as well, and every day pretty much. I'm trying to figure out how to do these lives and get more exposure, and I hope to have another video out as well. So thanks again. And for all of you that are watching, they've been hanging around. There's always a bunch of people that really hang around a long time, so I appreciate it. You really help the algorithm and get the exposure time up. I'm going to leave everybody with pretty much the one I go to most. Inspirational. I need some more inspirational clips, audio clips from movies or series, something that's inspirational around, you know, getting shit done, the power of the people, something of that nature. Doesn't have to be political based. It could be sports based or anything else. So I have 4 right now that I have on sort of speed dial here. One is the newsroom. It's the opening monologue to the newsroom, which was a series that ended in 2014-ish. One is the Ted Lasso speech to his team about all they needed is the guys in this room right now, and that applies to Americans. All that we need is the people, not in this room, but in America, to come together. One is the Steve Jobs Poke America speech, where Steve Jobs talks about once you realize you can poke things and you can change them, and that everything around us was created by people. Once you realize that, then you can change anything, basically. And then the other one was a more liberal view of from the American president, and that's, I forget the name of the American president. The American president was the series. Michael Douglas was the president, and he had an opponent that was sort of Trumpy, like Bob Rumsford. So those are my 4 different clips on speed dial that I always leave the show at with one of these inspirations. I need more. I can put a lot more into sort of this speed dial mechanism I have. So if you have any thoughts on what a better inspirational closing is, let me know. Send me a DM. I think the V for Vendetta had a cool one, but I didn't know if that would really resonate with most people. So I love the newsroom, the one the most. I think it's the most applicable. So I'm going to leave everybody with the newsroom, unless I get any strong feelings on anybody else from anything else. On the question you posted, regular citizens who are deprogrammed could do better. Absolutely. Zoe's mom. Any regular citizen that wants to learn and be knowledgeable and has some grasp of geopolitics and politics and the current world order, and that could pass an immigration test, which, by the way, is not that easy. You should do it on ChatGPT. Do an immigration naturalization test on ChatGPT and see if you could pass it. I would say at least 90% of Americans could not pass that test without studying. So
I might go do it.
go do it. It's fun exercise. I was concerned. I did it a long time ago, and I recently did it again, but I kept moving through advanced sessions to like, where are my blind spots? Because you can ask it where your blind spots are, and obviously it will tell you. But you start off with that immigration naturalization test, then it gives you a more advanced test and a more advanced test, and you just keep going. It'll just keep asking you if you want to do more advanced tests. And it's really enjoyable because obviously it'll explain to you things that you may not know. And you can just go 5-10 levels deep, and you go through that course, if you will, and you'll understand so much more what I'm talking about. And when I refer back to the Federalist Papers, and which, by the way, that's really advanced stuff. That's actually not really advanced at all. It's just not something that an immigration naturalization test will ask you about. The Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers, and all the founding fathers. It won't go very deep into who wrote what. Like Thomas Jefferson was the primary responsible for writing the Declaration of Independence, and the Federalist Papers were written by Thomas Jefferson and some other people, and Anti-Federalist by other founding fathers. So anyway, super interesting. If you haven't done it, use ChatGPT. Say, quiz me on immigration and naturalization test, and then ask it to do a little bit more and more and more. And I think it's cool. I think it's super enjoyable. It's super knowledgeable. And man, if 50% of Americans could pass the immigration and naturalization test, just 50%, we would be in such a better place in our world and understanding, because most people don't even understand that the Constitution is literally the rules, the law of the land. A lot of people don't really just truly understand that, the depth of what that means. So anyway, again, thanks Crazy Veggies, thanks Pammy, thanks Ashley, thanks Laura, or I think it was Laura earlier, and everyone that left a GIF. Really appreciate it. And for educating me on the inner workings of TikTok and how to get more people on here. And for those of you that had other questions, thanks again for everybody being here. I'll be online at least once or twice tomorrow as well, and every day this week. And please remember to follow. But most importantly, it's not about following. It's going to the link underneath my profile. And then you'll click on the Linktree link. It's the only link underneath my profile, and it opens up a page, and I'll show you what it looks like. Oh, it opens up this page right there. See that page. Get the microphone out of the way and the screen. So it opens up that page that has a whole bunch of links on it. The second and third link are Citizens' Plan to bring representation back to the people. One is on Medium, one is on Substack. I please ask you to read it if you're interested. I think it's an easy read. It's a good read, and I'm open to public comment. I want people to poke holes in it. If you think this plan is impossible, let me know. But I think 50 to 70 million people could change the entire direction of the country. And it starts with that plan. And then there's other links. Please sub on that network right there, the red logo. Please sub there. And if you know someone that wants to help me spread these messages farther and wider on Substack, on Medium, on Tube, on TikTok, on Reddit, and any place else, I could always use some help spreading this message. And there's a way to do that right there as well. And then there's some other random links, and you'll see what they are. So I would ask you to please just follow, go to that link. Again, we talk about solutions most of the time here, and having a 28th and 29th Amendment and fixing the country for everybody, whether you're MAGA, liberal, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian. I don't care how you identify yourself. If you're interested in bringing representation back to the people, we have to get money out of politics. And we have to ban foreign agents and infiltrators and so forth from being involved. So that's my closing. Thank you very much for watching. Here's the newsroom as a closing. Again, very inspirational, and I'll see everybody, and I'll shut this down in about 2 or 3 minutes after this.
Check, but he gets to hit you with it anytime he wants. It doesn't cost money. It costs votes. It costs airtime and column inches. You know why people don't like liberals? Because they lose. If liberals are so fucking smart, how come they lose so goddamn always? Hey, and with a straight face, you're going to tell students that America is so star-spangled awesome that we're the only ones in the world who have freedom? Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Australia, Belgium has freedom. So 207 sovereign states in the world, like 180 of them have freedom. All right. And yeah, you, sorority girl, just in case you accidentally wander into a voting booth one day, there's some things you should know. And one of them is, there is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 countries combined, 25 of whom are allies. Now, none of this is the fault of a 20-year-old college student, but you nonetheless are, without a doubt, a member of the worst generation ever. So when you ask what makes us the greatest country in the world, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yosemite? Sure used to be. We stood up for what was right. We fought for moral reasons. We passed laws, struck down laws for moral reasons. We waged wars on poverty, not poor people. We sacrificed. We cared about our neighbors. We put our money where our mouths were, and we never beat our chest. We built great big things, made ungodly technological advances, explored the universe, cured diseases, and we cultivated the world's greatest artists and the world's greatest economy. We reached for the stars, acted like men. We aspired to intelligence. We didn't belittle it. It didn't make us feel inferior. We didn't identify ourselves by who we voted for in the last election, and we didn't scare so easy. We were able to be all these things and do all these things because we were informed by great men, men who were revered. First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one. America is not the greatest country in the world anymore. Enough?
All right, everyone. Thank you very much. Good night to you all. And thanks for sharing, Justin Forum. Thanks for sharing the live with more than 5 friends. That was nice of you. I'll be back at least daily sometimes twice a day. I don't have a firm schedule yet, but and I'll also look at Transparent Ballot Initiative. I've heard about it. I have looked it up, but I can't remember it at the moment. It's late. So thank you all very much. I'll see you in the next one.